All right, everybody, let's jump right into this. A very exciting episode for you today. Here in my hands, I am holding an article that was published by PJ Media. The title is, Let's Be Honest, Candace Owens is a Jew-hating bigot. It was written by a...
All right, I'm gonna listen to this podcast, and I'm just gonna pause in various spots and just comment on what I think is being talked about. So, here we go.
Rabbi Michael Barclay. So I read this article, and honestly, there are only two options here. Either this rabbi is genuinely ignorant of everything that I have ever said, in which case I'm happy to clarify it because he will be joining us on today's episode, or the other option is he's completely aware of the things that I have said, and he is just a monster. I'm excited to find out when we sit down here with Rabbi Barclay. That's what we have coming up on Candace Owens. All right, guys, we're going to jump right into this. As I stated at the top of the show, we have Rabbi Michael Barclay. He is, by the way, joining us really last second, so if the shot is not perfect, really appreciate him coming on such short notice. Rabbi Michael Barclay, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Candace. And Candace, I really want to tell you, I've written certain things, and it gives me great optimism that you're gracious and reached out yesterday and wanted to get together. It actually makes me very optimistic.
Yes, so I am the ultimate defender of free speech, and I believe that we need more speech, not less of it. When we see things and we believe them not to be true, rather than censoring that individual, we should actually give that person a platform, because people will walk away and be able to assess whether or not the statements they heard was true. And so just to give a little bit of background to people listening to this, you appeared on Charlie Kirk's show, and you referred to me as anti-Semitic. Is that correct? Okay.
Not only that, Candace, I've actually written a couple of articles, one in November and one last week, about your anti-Semitism. Yeah.
Correct. And referring to that article that you wrote last week, published on March 9th, the heading reads, Let's Be Honest, Candace Owens is a Jew-hating bigot. So that's very punchy, very strong language, and I want to actually go through.
So this rabbi wrote an article about Candace Owens, calling her a Jew-hating bigot, even though she's perfectly willing to have this rabbi on her show and talk about it. You know, she worked for the Daily Wire, which it was started by Ben Shapiro, who's Jewish, and she knows that. She used to work for PragerU. Dennis Prager is Jewish. She had no problem working with him. She talks about her past, how she's had most of her friends throughout growing up were Jewish. She's been to multiple bat mitzvahs. You know, she had a Jewish roommate. She had a Jewish boyfriend. And, but she's a Jew-hating bigot. No, she's not.
This article point by point so that you can defend your position and say why you wrote this?
Candace, I think before that, and as I said, I'm very optimistic that you would have a dialogue about something. I think before that, there are some real steps, which is, I have called you, and I'm not alone in this, many Jews have called you an anti-Semite. Mm-hmm. I've also talked to people who say you have a really sweet heart, just so you know. You and I have a number of mutual friends in the world. But I think it's important to first identify what anti-Semitism is. It is a different type of hate than any other type of hate in the world. And if you and I are speaking crossways because we have a different understanding and definition, that's not going to lead to any dialogue. That's not going to lead. Look, I said to Skylar, I'd love to walk out of here and say, you know what, I was wrong, and write an article, I apologize, and I was wrong. But the first piece is to have a mutual understanding of what is anti-Semitism. I think that would help a tremendous amount.
I actually totally agree with you on that. That is a perfect place to start. Could you provide for us a definition of anti-Semitism?
Absolutely. I really appreciate that, because I think that is the break. If we're not speaking the same language, where can we go, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a man, a blessed memory man named Lord Jonathan Sachs. He was the chief rabbi of England. He had a great line. He really defined anti-Semitism, that anti-Semitism is Jews have no right to exist collectively as Jews with the same rights as other human beings. Which is kind of a weird statement. So let's just track back a bit to understand the history of anti-Semitism. 2,000 years ago, Jews don't accept Jesus as Messiah. For people who do not have faith, as the early Christians, as some of them have faith, some of them accept Jesus, but they don't really in their heart. And you and I both know people like Rob McCoy who accepts it fully in their heart, and other people who are doing it without faith. And those who have less faith, the fact that a Jew exists, let alone thrives, is a threat to their faith, because how can the Jew not accept Jesus as God and still thrive? Unless he's associated with the devil. So you start having these myths that are created of the Jew being identified with the opposite of God. This really codifies in 1144 in Norwich, England, what's called the Blood Libel. And this is really important to understand, especially today in 2024. In 1144, a young boy is killed, and the local priest says that's because the Jews need to make their matzah with Christian blood. It's called the Blood Libel. It's blaming the problems of other people on the Jew. It's just so you know, that's so ridiculous, not only just on its face, but we're forbidden from even having meat that has any blood in it. This is a Torah law. You can't have, that's why, we can't have steak tartar. Okay? So this gets perpetuated in combination with a 4th century, what's called the Vulgate.
I'm sorry, did you say in 1140 this happened?
1144 in Norwich, England. Okay. This is.
Isn't it interesting how she asks him the definition of anti-Semitism? What is your definition of anti-Semitism? Just so we're on the same page, so we're talking the same language. And he says, sure, I'll define anti-Semitism for you. 2,000 years ago, and then he goes on for like 15 minutes. I'm like, dude, just define it. What are you going on about? Well, let me go through all of history for the past 2,000 years. Just define the term. Anyway.
In the 4th century, you have something called the Vulgate. The Vulgate is the official translation of the Bible. In Hebrew, there's no vowels. And the person who translates, St. Jerome, who translates the Vulgate, knows what he's doing is translating wrong. He puts down that when Moses comes down from Mount Sinai, he has horns. Okay, Karen, when actually the word was Karan, meaning that light shone from his head. So now, by 1144, you have the anti-Semitic myth of Jews have horns and they drink blood. And I know people who've been asked when they went into the army and other places, can I see your horns? So this still exists today in 2024 throughout America. And I don't mean just in little.
So he's talking about a mistranslation that had happened in the Latin Vulgate, where the Bible says that light had shone from Moses' face, and apparently the Hebrew word is Quran, but somehow it got translated as Karen. Maybe Jerome mistranslated it or something like that. So he ended up translating it as horns in the Latin Vulgate, which is wrong. Moses didn't have horns. He had light shining from his face. And so it's so he's talking about a misunderstanding from the Latin Vulgate.
Rural areas. It exists today, these myths. That Vulgate Bible is the official Catholic Bible all the way through the 1970s. So it is, you need to understand that that's a piece of it, okay? That they're equated with this kind of hate. Because it's about Jews not having the right to exist collectively, when they live in their little communities in the Middle Ages, anti-Semitism is a hate against their religion. By the time you get to the 18th and 20th centuries, when so many Jews have assimilated, they are in culture, they are in arts, they're in science, it's no longer against them for their religion, it's against them for their race. Because anti-Semitism is the oldest hate in the world, and the hate that mutates. In 1948, because remember, it says Lord Sachs.
Oh, I just want to pause it. You said it's a hate that mutates.
Correct.
So your belief then is that the definition of anti-Semitism can necessarily change. Is that correct?
It's not just my belief. It is the commonly accepted understanding in both the Jewish and academic worlds.
Okay.
This isn't, okay? As I said, that's why I quoted, this is a quote, it's a great thing from Lord Sachs, Jonathan Sachs, it's a great thing from Niall Leckett. This is just accepted as the understanding of, a cultural anthropologist.
So I would just say off the bat, I do not accept that definitions can just mutate. That is something that I could debate that on, like the definition of a woman. I mean, and I'm saying not just about Jewish people. I think that we have to have a concrete definition to work with, because then you can just update and say, actually, I've changed that, and now this is what constitutes anti-Semitism.
But Candace, that is the horror of anti-Semitism.
Okay, first of all, I think there's a little bit of breakdown in communication here. She's asking, what is the definition? Give me a concrete definition. What he says is, it's a hate that mutates. Meaning he's talking about how at one point in time there were Christians who hated Jews for their religion because they didn't believe in Jesus. So it was their religion that was hated. And then at a later point in time, you get to the time of the Nazis, and the Nazis had racist beliefs about the Jews. They used evolution to try to justify this belief that their race is inferior. So it's not necessarily a hatred for their religion, it's a hatred for their race. Well, he's right that the hate mutates. I mean, obviously, one group of people can hate the Jews for their religion in one century, and then at a later century, they can hate the Jews for their race. Obviously, the hate can mutate. But that doesn't mean that the definition mutates. Okay, whether you're hating somebody for their religion or hating someone for their race, either way, that doesn't mean that the definition of anti-Semitism is mutating or changing. The hate can mutate. Obviously, anybody that you hate, you can hate somebody for one reason one day, and then you hate them for another reason another day. 10 years I hated this person because of what they did to me, but now I hate them because they like the wrong basketball team or something. Hate can mutate. Obviously that can change. That doesn't mean the definition is changing or mutating. So what he's trying to communicate here about how the hate can mutate, there's a breakdown of communication between him and her, because she's trying to say definitions don't change, definitions don't mutate. And so he kind of misunderstands and backs up, the definition can change. And so I think there's a little bit of breakdown. I think the definition is concrete. I think it has to, hatred and bigotry towards Jewish people, whether it is for their religion or whether it is for their race or whether it's for something else. The hate can change. The definition is still the same. So there's a little bit of breakdown in communication here, I think.
What you are saying to me is that anti-Semitism is this and does not change. What I am saying to you is that the entire world and scholars about anti-Semitism recognize that it is a unique hate. That if you define it as that Jews should not be able to exist collectively, okay, as a collective, they just shouldn't have that right. That changes from the Middle Ages with religion, the 18th through 20th centuries about race, and then after Israel's created, it's a hatred based on the nation.
Yeah, it's the hate can mutate. Yeah, one century they hate them for their religion, another century they hate them for their race, and then another century they hate the nation that formed in 1947. Yeah, the hate can change. It doesn't mean the definition is changing. So, he's being kind of confusing.
And until that is understood, that it is, this isn't something that's really questioned about among academics, theologians, Jewish scholars. I'm not presenting it. This is why I thought that I'm so optimistic about a dialogue. But I think part of it is you view that the hate can't mutate. And what I'm trying to tell you is that we have 2,000 years of history that demonstrates.
Yeah, the hate can mutate. It's not the definition that's mutating. The definition is hatred for Jews. But the hate itself can change in different ways. That doesn't mean the definition is changing.
It's the exact opposite.
So, and I'm gonna just push back just gently here. For me personally, if I thought that racism could just be an ever-shifting definition based on the experience of Black people, it would be a remarkable power, and I would be able to create something like BLM, which could say that everything was racist. So I am not going to be able to agree that definition should be able to transform according to what's happening during the day. But here's what I will say. If you could, just because I think it's really important for us to get to going through this article, because then you might be able to explain why you view it as anti-Semitism. If you could just give us what you are saying the current definition of anti-Semitism is today, that would be very helpful.
The current definition of anti-Semitism today has to do with what the feelings are. It has to do with anti-Zionism, number one. That is a definition. Anti-Zionism, anti-Israel is anti-Semitism.
Okay.
This isn't
so you believe that Jewish people can be anti-Semitic?
Absolutely.
Okay. So when you see a gathering of Jewish people who say, you know, I'm Jewish, but I don't support Israel or Bibi Netanyahu, you say that person can be anti-Semitic. You
just did two different things and was very. You just did two different things that were totally unrelated, Candace.
Okay.
You said that Jews that do not support Israel.
Yes.
And you said Jews that do not support Bibi Netanyahu.
I'm just saying that because he's the current prime minister. So I'm saying, like, if they say I don't support.
No. This is where you're missing the point. So
okay.
I'm going to go under the following premise. Okay. I'm going to go under the premise that you care about.
So what he took offense to there is he's basically saying that there are Jewish people who can support Israel, but they may not support what the government of Israel is doing. I mean, it's just like America. You know, you can be American, you can be patriotic, you can sing the national anthem, but you may be very, very upset with the government in America. That doesn't mean you hate America. It just means that you're very, angry with what your American government is doing. And it can be the same way with Israel, So he's trying to make it sound, he's trying to say that there's a difference between, disagreeing with what the Israel government is doing as opposed to not wanting the state of Israel to even exist at all. I think that's kind of what he's getting at.
You and I don't know each other, but I'm going to go under that premise. I'm going to go under the premise that you have no desire to ever hurt anyone. Okay? That's the premise I'm coming into this dialogue with. You have been devastatingly hurtful. And I think that I'm going to go from that you don't understand what it means to the Jewish world. There's a great teaching that comes out of every sociologist, every person in academics, is that I don't get to tell a Black man if he's experiencing racism. He knows. I don't get to tell you if you're experiencing misogyny. You know. If I make a comment and it's misogynistic, and you say, Rabbi, that was really misogynistic, my job is to say, wow, I didn't mean that. I apologize. That's not what I meant. And you do not get the right to say what is anti-Semitic or Jew hatred. I'm sorry.
I'm not trying to. I don't think I said anything about me having the right. I just said to you, would you then view, because I did host somebody who was Jewish, Dave Smith, on my show. I'm sure you're familiar with him. He's a comedian, he's a libertarian. He is not pro-Zionist. So I'm just asking you for clarity, because you're saying that you can't dismiss a Jewish person, but aren't you thereby dismissing Jewish people who say that I don't support Israel as a state? I'm just trying to have you answer that question.
And the answer is, I will ask you back the same question. Are there Blacks who do not support Blacks? Are there pick the cause or the minority who do not support or actually, or even better? You and I both sit on the conservative side politically. We share that, right? And we face the same way when it comes to that. And we both, I think, are disappointed in those who are Republicans in name only, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Does that mean they're not Republicans?
Well, I wouldn't describe a race as a political ideology, like a political party. That's very different. So to say that you can't be a race, like you're not black if you don't support this, is different than, like, you're basically saying that a Jewish person can be anti-Semitic. So that would be like saying a black person can in fact be racist towards, or they're not black.
Look, I'm not going to comment on black community. I will say there are plenty of self-hating Jews.
Okay, so you do believe, that's all I was trying to get you to say, is that Jewish people who don't support Israel, you are saying they are anti-Semitic. I just want to understand that.
I'm saying it very clearly, they are self-hating Jews. Let's use that term very specifically.
Okay.
And you need to understand why they are self-hating.
You know, to say that someone is a self-hating Jew, if you know who she's talking about, she interviewed this comedian named Dave Smith, who's Jewish, and Dave Smith criticizes the government of Israel for what they're doing. That doesn't make him a self-hating Jew, just because he's criticizing what the government of Israel is doing by, bombing these hospitals with Palestinians in them. I don't think that makes him a self-hating Jew. So what he's saying here, honestly, doesn't really make sense to me.
And you need to understand, as numerous people have talked about, I've written about, Prager's talked about, Gorka's talked about, Levin's talked about, a number of people have talked about, Shapiro's talked about, and as I say, I've written about, is that people want to assimilate. For 2,000 years, Jews have been persecuted, and so they want to assimilate, and so many have converted from Judaism not to another religion, but to leftist politics. That becomes their religion. And they lose their identity. That is a reality. So you need to understand, or I shouldn't say you need to, that's not fair, and I apologize.
Okay, yeah, I can agree with him that you could call someone like that a self-hating Jew. Somebody who is Jewish ethnically, but they don't follow the Jewish religion anymore. They've just completely abandoned religion. Not because they're converting to Christianity or converting to Islam or converting to something else, but they're just following leftist politics, and leftist politics becomes their religion, and so they're not really, even though they're ethnically, biologically Jewish, they don't follow the Jewish religion. And so he's referring to them as a self-hating Jew, which I guess in some ways, I guess you could say, honestly, I don't think that they all hate themselves. But if they hate religion and therefore hate the Jewish religion, especially like an atheist, a Jewish person who becomes atheist, definitely hates religion. Bill Maher is half Jewish and he constantly rails against religion. And so someone like that, yeah, you could call that a self-hating Jew. Not that Bill Maher hates himself, but that he does hate the religion of Judaism. In addition to he hates the religion of Christianity, he hates the religion of Islam. He basically hates all religion. He's an atheist. He hates all religion. So I think that's kind of what he's getting at.
I would hope that you understand a history and an understanding that we define what anti-Semitism is. And what happened on October 7th, and I wrote an article about you in November. I don't know if you read it or not. I was told that you had, but I don't know if you did or not.
I did not.
Okay. I wish you had, and I really wish you had, because we might be in a very different place. You went on Tucker Carlson this is in November. And
okay, go ahead. I was going to say I want to talk about that because you put that in this article, which was published just last week.
So I wrote a very specific article, and you can find it right now. And it was an impersonal invitation to you and for you, that despite everything else I had read or seen or heard, that my belief and my hope is that your comment of wanting to have an academic discussion about October 7th came from a place of not really realizing what October 7th was. October 7th is unique in recorded human history as the ugliest day of humanity. What was done on October 7th, taking a young woman, taking her phone to videotape her being raped on the corpse of her dead boyfriend and then shot on it and sending that video to her parents. Beheading a man with a garden hoe, kicking a woman until her body parts fall off is unique in terms of the intention to attack civilians. And so in November, after you made the comment on Tucker Carlson about wanting an academic discussion about how, those kind of comments that you made and the ennui that you demonstrate, I wrote an article saying that I would arrange for you, there's a film, 47-minute film by the IDF. It is all the footage done by the Hamas terrorists of what they were doing so proudly, what they wanted to do. And that my belief was, I don't think that you quite realize that, and I would arrange for private screening for you and your friends. Mm-hmm. And that I would arrange that. And
okay, so he's inviting her to watch a documentary. He says it's a 47-minute documentary made by the IDF, which I think IDF stands for Israel Defense Forces. I don't know what this documentary is. I haven't seen it. I don't even know what the title of it is, or where to get it, or how to find it. But I'd like to watch it and see what it shows. So he's inviting her to do a screening of that movie.
Then have the discussion about how you feel about October 7th.
Okay, so I just really would like to get to your article because I think it's important. I want to acknowledge your pain about October 7th.
Wait, that's not an opinion. That's not an opinion.
No, I didn't say opinion. I said I want to acknowledge your pain about
I apologize.
October 7th.
I apologize. I think it's an opinion. I apologize.
I didn't say that. I said I want to acknowledge your pain about October 7th, and I want to get to that because you are...
Because that's all pain.
Yeah, you're mischaracterizing what I said on Tucker Carlson, but I do have the clip, and we're going to be able to watch it. I definitely did not say I wanted to have an academic debate about October 7th. That's not what I said at all. But like I said,
Yeah, she did not say that she wants to have an academic debate about October 7th. She was on Tucker Carlson. She was talking about October 7th and what had happened to, these people that were targeted by Hamas. Well, later on in that discussion with Tucker, she started talking about Ukraine as well. And when she started talking about Ukraine, then she started talking about having an academic discussion. Okay, so yes, she did say, hey, let's have an academic discussion about what's going on with Ukraine and whether or not Israel or whether or not the U.S. should be supporting them. But that wasn't in reference to what had happened on October 7th. He's confusing it and saying, oh, she was saying that she wants to have an academic discussion about October 7th. That is not what she said. She said she wants to have an academic discussion about Ukraine. And he watched that interview between her and Tucker Carlson and he got mixed up in his head. So she's going to show that clip that he completely misunderstood and took it completely out of context.
Have the clip. And I do also I think it's best for us to dive into what you actually wrote about me because there are several mischaracterizations, I believe, of what I said, but both of us are going to be able to watch it. So again, this is the article. And by the way, you did say in this article that you heard that I received your invitation. That is false.
I did.
So I think it's important to just maybe name the people who told you that I received your invitation.
No, I'd rather not do that, especially since you're saying that it's incorrect, and in which case I apologize.
No, you can apologize. I just think that a lot of the reason that things happen is because there is this sort of back channeling and discussion, and nobody told me that I got an invitation, and now you've written that I refused an invitation, and so that adds to people believing.
So Candace, I'm going to ask you a question right now. I'm inviting you. Forget about the article. Because I have no issue and would love to write an article saying I was wrong. Candace Owens does not feel that way. I would love that. So I'm inviting you right now.
So he had invited her to watch this documentary by the IDF, the Israel Defense Force, which shows all of the brutality that happened on to October 7th. And he put that invitation of his in some article that he wrote in November. And she never even saw it. And yet somebody told him that she saw the invitation and she refuses, which is completely untrue. She never saw the article in November, and she never refused any sort of invitation. But somebody told him that she refused that invitation, and so he wrote a nasty article about her because he believed what somebody else had said that wasn't true.
I will set up a screening for you. Will you come?
If you set up a screening for me after we go through this, I want to also be able to estimate your character by going through some of the things that you wrote. You did write some things that I believe.
Wait. I'm asking you a yes or no question.
No. And I just said to you, I'm going to give you an answer to that, but I want to first go through your article because I want to be able to estimate.
Wait. I'm asking you a question. I will take the entire article.
I'm not saying I'm not going to answer your question. I am just saying that I would like to go through this.
What she's saying here is that she doesn't want to answer yes or no yet until after they go through the article. And once she gets some sort of an estimate of his character, then she will answer yes, I'll accept your invitation, or no, I'm not going to accept your invitation. She wants to estimate his character first. She wants to have some kind of an idea of what his character is first, and then respond to the invitation, okay? Which is perfectly legitimate.
See how you feel.
You said you hadn't had an invitation. I'm asking you. I don't have to be there. I'll set it up for you.
Okay, sure. If you want to set it up for me to have a screening of that here without you there, that's fine. What I'm saying is that I would not, based on what you wrote about me, I wouldn't take an invitation from you anywhere. I think that's fair given what's in this article. I think that's a normal human response, that if somebody has written something that is utterly libelous about you, it mischaracterizes what you said. But if you want to set it up separately and you want to send it to the Daily Wire and you want us to have a private screening, I absolutely will watch the events of October 7th.
You know what? God bless you. And had I ever heard you say that, I wouldn't have written an article.
Well, I think you still would have, because you made a lot of points in here.
No, I wouldn't have. No, I wouldn't have, because I believe in the idea that it's about what we act and learn. And we have a concept called Shula in Judaism. No, actually, honestly, had you said there, at any point, what you just now said to me, that you would watch a screening, I don't need to be there, that you would watch a screening. If I set it up, I would not have written that article.
Okay. Well, I do still want to go through these points, though, because you...
Okay, but do you hear that, please?
Yes, I hear that, and thank you for saying that. Right. But a lot of what you wrote in this article is a lot of what I'm assuming you have a friendly relationship with Rabbi Shmuley has been saying about me. So it's really important to go through these points, because when you write something like is a Jew-hating bigot, that's very strong language, and we need to go through these points. So
we'll go through all.
And that's a really good point. Why would he call her a Jew-hating bigot? That is the furthest thing from her character. Why would he say that? Because she's criticizing the government of Israel for what they're doing to the Palestinians, blowing up hospitals? That does not make her a Jew-hating bigot. Just because she sees Palestinian children dying and she feels for them. That's slander.
I'm sure.
Yes, thank you. Okay, let's just begin here. So you basically make the argument that I'm drunk on fame, and that is the reason why I have let out the truth about who I am, which makes me a Jew hater. First thing you say is that this is a woman who is such an anti-Semite and so ignorant of history that in 2018 she publicly said that Hitler was okay. Do you actually believe that I publicly said that Hitler was okay?
So from the recording that I heard, including the congressional testimony, which I think was taken out of context, and from the comments that you said, okay, and you correct if I'm wrong, but my understanding from your comments is you were asked a question about nationalism. Mm-hmm. And you responded about nationalism using the example that nationalism was good, and that what Hitler was nationalistic in Germany, and that was okay. You have said specifically you think Hitler is a horrible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you have condemned Hitler, thank God, without question. And you also brought him up in that discussion.
So he admits that she condemned Hitler. He admits, he knows that she condemned Hitler. So why would he write an article saying that she thinks Hitler is okay? He just said that she has condemned Hitler. Listen to this. Okay, I'm going to backtrack a little bit.
So, and you have condemned Hitler, thank God.
Did you hear that? He acknowledges that she's condemned Hitler.
Without question, and that was okay. You have said specifically you think Hitler is a horrible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you have condemned Hitler, thank.
So he admits that she has condemned Hitler. Why in the world would he write an article saying that she thinks Hitler's okay when he's acknowledging, when he talks to her face to face, that she's condemned Hitler? What is going on? You know that she's condemned Hitler and you're going to write an article saying that she thinks Hitler's okay? What in the world?
Without question. And you also brought him up in that discussion about nationalism. Is that all accurate?
So when you just write, she publicly said Hitler was okay, that is dishonest, because what I actually was saying was answering a question, as you brought up.
That's absolutely right that that's dishonest, that he would say that about her.
Where we were not even talking about Jews, not talking about the Holocaust. A woman was asking about whether or not it's okay for people today to say that they're nationalist when it's often associated as a dirty word. And what I was saying was that it's wrongly associated with Hitler. I don't believe that Hitler was a nationalist because obviously Hitler invaded Poland. He obviously had ambitions outside of. So what, we have the clip, so we're going to play it. So again, the question that's being asked of me is whether or not nationalism is an okay word to embrace. Let's play the clip so we can hear me and what I actually said.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I actually don't have any problems at all with the word nationalism. I think that it gets, the definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. So when you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. You know, he was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way. That's not, to me, that's not nationalism.
So again, we're trying there to define nationalism. Does your statement, she publicly said that Hitler was okay, is that an honest statement?
Yeah, so let's talk about this for a moment. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Did he just say yeah? Yeah? She said Hitler's okay? Yeah? No, she didn't. She condemned him. Listen to that again. Okay, let me just backtrack a little bit. Listen to that again.
The definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. So when you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. You know, he was a National Socialist, but if Hitler...
No, she's right about that. Whenever somebody says nationalism, they typically associate that with Hitler and they associate it with Nazis. Why? Because the word Nazi means National Socialist. Nazi is a short term that means National Socialist. So it's usually associated with Hitler, usually associated with the Nazis, which is why the word nationalism is looked at as being a bad word or a dirty word. Well, it's not a bad word. It's not a dirty word. It just simply means that you care about your country. You care about your nation. You're patriotic. It's like someone who says that they love America or they want to make America great again. It's not a dirty word. The point she's making here is that Hitler, even though he's associated with the term nationalism, National Socialist, he wasn't really nationalistic at all. He was a globalist because he wanted to invade Poland, he wanted to invade Holland, he wanted to invade France, he wanted to invade all these countries. That's not nationalism. That's not saying, oh, I love Germany. I want to make Germany great. No. So the truth of the matter is, Hitler was not a nationalist. He wasn't just wanting to make Germany great. He had these globalistic plans. So she's making the point here that Hitler was a globalist, and she says that she is not okay with globalism. Listen to what she says.
just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well. Okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way. That's not, to me, that's not nationalism.
So what she's saying there is she's saying that Hitler is not a nationalist. Hitler is a globalist. And she's saying that she is not okay with globalism. And therefore, she is not okay with Hitler. She literally just said Hitler was not a nationalist. Even though he called himself a nationalist, he wasn't really. He was a globalist. And she's not okay with globalism. She's literally saying she is not okay with Hitler because Hitler was a globalist and she's not okay with globalism. But she's saying that she is okay with nationalism because the fact of the matter is that Hitler was not really a nationalist. He wasn't. He wasn't a nationalist. He was a globalist. And so all she's saying is that, look, if a person loves their country and they just want to make their country great, then fine. Okay? The problem is people misinterpret it. Is because they misinterpret that as saying, oh, well, you know, if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great, well, then that's fine. Well, she's not saying that the Holocaust is okay. That's not even part of the discussion. That's literally not even part of the context. Put it in a different context. Put it in the context of if Donald Trump just wants to make America great, well, then fine. Okay, that's the point that she's making here. Okay? So you have to understand what she's saying in context, and he wants to rip it out of context.
Oh, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way. That's not, to me, that's not nationalism.
So again, we're trying there to define nationalism. Does your statement, she publicly said that Hitler was okay, is that an honest statement?
Yeah, so let's talk.
No, it's not what she said. She said Hitler is not okay. She said Hitler is a globalist. I'm not okay with globalism. Hitler is not okay. Ugh. He's so dishonest.
About this for a moment. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You were asked a question about nationalism.
Mm-hmm.
You responded with an example of Adolf Hitler.
Yes, I said because Americans associate, the reason why they think it's a dirty word is because of Adolf Hitler.
You respond, and you have subsequently, and I've seen you subsequently, and I think you even said it at the congressional hearing, you have obviously condemned him for who he was. But
so you admit that she's condemned him. So why are you writing an article? He just admitted that she had said in a hearing before Congress that she condemns Hitler. Why are you saying that she said that Hitler's okay? What are you doing, man? That's slander.
you brought Hitler's name into the discussion.
Correct.
Okay. And you justified that this is how America feels or how people feel. And that's your take on it. It's not necessarily accurate. And in fact, it probably isn't from an actual sociological standpoint. But that's your opinion. Fine. But Candace, you put in the same sentence what he did if it just had stayed in Germany was okay. But more importantly, and here's a piece of the anti-Semitism. Why bring one of the most evil men of history into the discussion? You could just...
The reason why she brought it into the discussion is because it's relevant to the discussion. The reason why people don't like to use the word nationalism is because the word gets associated with Hitler, which is why people see it as a dirty word, which is why she brought it into the discussion. Duh.
Just as easily have given any negative examples of nationalism. You chose to bring Hitler up, not them.
I did, and I have no. I
wouldn't say that she chose to bring up Hitler. Okay. There are people out there who associate nationalism with Hitler. She brought it up because she doesn't want people to associate nationalism with Hitler. She wants to point out that Hitler was not really a nationalist, but a globalist. So she's saying, hey, you know what? Nationalism is not really a dirty word like people think it is. Stop associating it with Hitler. That's why she brought it up. It makes perfect sense.
If I could go backwards in the context of trying to understand why Americans think that nationalism is a bad word, it was appropriate for me to bring off Adolf Hitler. It is totally appropriate in any capacity when you are talking about history and historical sentiments to bring up any relevant character that has created those sentiments. So I just want a yes or no. After watching that, I want to make sure we don't run out of time here. After watching that in context, do you think it is fair that you wrote, she publicly said that Hitler was okay? Hitler was okay.
Yeah. Yes, by bringing me even into the conversation, yes, I do.
Okay, great.
Wow. So even after he has seen the clip in context, he's still standing by his utter slander against her character. Wow.
Let's move on here, because again, this discussion, we're having it between us, but I want the public to be able to, deduce what's fair and what's not fair. You then wrote this statement. A mere month after the horrors of babies being beheaded, women being raped, and the slews of horrors from Hamas, Owens went on Tucker Carlson's show to speak about how it really wasn't that bad and why should she even care? After all, she seems to think that Hitler was okay, so what's the problem? Is that true that I went on Tucker Carlson's show and said that October 7th really wasn't that bad?
Yeah, actually you did. And you did it through the implications and the words. And I actually do know where some of those clips are because I've rewatched it multiple times. Mm-hmm. And you specifically say you want to have an academic discussion. You specifically say, I don't want to misquote you, that you have.
Well, you already did misquote her because she said she wanted to have an academic discussion about Ukraine. When you watch her interview with Tucker Carlson, she said that she wants to have an intellectual discussion, an academic discussion about Ukraine, not about October 7th. So you already misquoted her.
You rewatched it multiple times. Mm-hmm. And you specifically say you want to have an academic discussion. You specifically say, I don't want to misquote you, that you believe you have a moderate stance. Okay. Because you see the children dying and on both sides, and you talk about the pain, and I think you do feel pain about Gaza. And this goes back to the anti-Semitism, Candace. It happened October.
Whoa. She feels bad for both sides, and that makes her anti-Semitic? What?
7th is unique. It is to even make a moral equivalency. This is one of the keys in anti-Semitism and in any prejudice and bigotry, is that an inappropriate moral equivalency is created. When someone says that this race, these people, whomever, are like dogs, they've made a moral equivalency between those people and dogs, that is bigotry. That is hatred.
So I first want to debunk the idea that I did not, like I in any way said it really wasn't that bad. That statement never came out of my mouth. And I also want to show that actually, contrary to that, I condemned what Hamas did. So let's just show that clip of what I said. And then I want to get to your quotation about academic discussion. Let's just show what I said about Hamas. I have seen every single person, including myself, condemn what happened on October 7th. Because who wouldn't condemn terrorism? It's obvious. Who would not condemn innocent Israelis dying? But if you then say that it is also sad when an innocent Palestinian child dies, suddenly this is pro-Hamas, or you need to say, even when you're talking about how sad it is that a child dies, you need to button that statement by saying, but that child was a human shield. That's not going to be my response. First off, as a mother, that's not going to be my response as somebody who is about to give birth. When I see these images of children involved on both sides of the conflict, I have pointed to the people that are mocking dead Israeli children and said that they are horrific. I am even keel on this matter, and yet people think that you need to be extreme. So people that have become more radical and extreme are perceiving
a moderate stance as not enough. And
because I was about to say, you don't, people can disagree with you or agree with you or whatever, but you certainly don't seem radical on this topic.
And I'm going to hold here before you comment on that, because your next sentence, as you just said, she wanted to talk about the depravities of Hamas as an academic discussion and refused to even condemn Hamas. So we just saw that I did condemn Hamas. And regarding the academic discussion...
No, you didn't. I'm sorry, but no, you made a moral equivalency between...
Whoa. Did he just say, no, you didn't? Let me watch that again.
...as an academic discussion and refused to even condemn Hamas. So we just saw that I did condemn Hamas. And regarding the academic discussion...
No, you didn't. I'm sorry, but no, you made a moral...
No, you didn't! What? Let me watch that again. Okay, so she's saying she condemned Hamas. He's saying no, she didn't. Let's go back and watch that. Let me backtrack a little bit here. He's saying that she did not condemn Hamas. Let's back up a little bit here.
Let's just show what I said about Hamas.
I have seen every single person, including myself, condemn what happened on October 7th.
She literally just said right there in her clip with Tucker Carlson that she condemns Hamas. Did you hear? Listen to it again.
I have seen every single person, including myself, condemn what happened on October 7th. I have seen every single person, including myself, condemn what happened on October 7th. I have seen every single person, including myself, condemn what happened on October 7th.
I have seen every single person, including myself, condemn what happened on October 7th. She condemned Hamas. Right there. Good grief.
Because who wouldn't condemn terrorism? It's obvious. Right. Who would not?
Who would not condemn terrorism? Who would not condemn terrorism? She clearly condemns Hamas. And yet he is lying about her, slandering her, saying, oh, she didn't condemn Hamas. Listen to what he says.
Even condemn Hamas. So we just saw that I did condemn Hamas. And regarding the academic discussion...
No, you didn't.
So we just saw that I did condemn Hamas. And regarding the academic discussion...
No,
so we just saw that I did condemn Hamas. And regarding the academic discussion...
No, you didn't. I'm sorry.
Yes, she did. She literally... Did you not listen to what she said? She just condemned Hamas. Oh, my goodness.
No, you made a moral equivalency between Hamas and Gaza.
I didn't do that.
There is no moral equivalency. What Hamas did is evil. It is not a tragedy only, it is evil. I'm sorry, Candace.
So she made a moral equivalency. She still condemned it. Look, what in the world? You're being so dishonest. She condemned it. Oh, but you made a moral equivalency. She condemned it, dude.
You make an equivalency that does not exist in most people's minds, and certainly in no Jews' minds.
Okay, so I'm glad that you said that, so people can hear what I actually said and hear what you are saying and how you are taking it. I don't know how you could write this statement, she refused to condemn Hamas, when I literally said who would not condemn these horrific events.
I honestly don't understand how he can say that either. How can you as an honest person, doesn't the 9th commandment say thou shalt not lie? Isn't that on the 10 commandments that came down from Mount Sinai? He's blatantly lying. She never condemned Hamas, even though there's a video footage which she just played for him where she condemns Hamas. And he's still, doubling down on his false slander. He's still doubling down on it, saying, you didn't condemn Hamas. Yeah, she did, and you're a liar.
Condemn them uniquely evil. You put them in pari-passu relationship.
So you're saying that...
she didn't condemn them as uniquely evil. She condemned them, but she didn't condemn them as uniquely evil. She still condemned Hamas. And you lied and said that she did not condemn Hamas when she did. Oh, but she didn't condemn them as uniquely evil. I mean, yeah, I would say it probably is uniquely evil, but she still condemned Hamas, and you're still lying.
You're saying that even though I did, so now you're admitting that I did condemn Hamas.
Now he's admitting that she did condemn Hamas.
She refused to condemn Hamas.
What condemnation is? Is this where you really want to go? Is have an English discussion?
No. You wrote.
Yeah, this isn't about an English discussion, dude. This is about the fact that you lied and slandered her in an article. It's not about an English discussion. It's not about semantics. It's not about arguing over words. It's about the fact that you lied about her and you slandered her. That's what it's about, dude.
He refused to condemn Hamas. These are your words.
Because when you put that, at the moment you say that they have a moral equivalency with anything else, that's not condemnation, no matter
I didn't.
what.
I said it's sad when an innocent.
It's not condemnation, and
Is
it's
it?
not
I'll just ask you a
extreme.
question.
I'm sorry,
Is it sad?
Candace.
Is
It's
it
not
sad?
extreme.
Sure.
Sit there and do that.
I don't want to cut each other off, okay? Because clearly what we are having here is just a disagreement. There's no reason to get angry. Do you think?
But
do you?
no, there is a reason to
do
get
you think
angry.
it is sad?
I think that there is a reason to get angry. You see, he's angry that you just called his bluff. He's angry that you just basically exposed that he's a liar. So there is a reason to get angry because he's caught and his lie has just been uncovered. And so, yeah, I can understand why he would get angry about that because he's proven wrong.
When an innocent Palestinian child dies.
Candace, I cry every day. And it's not just for Israel.
Do you think it is sad when an innocent Palestinian child dies?
Candace, I cry every day. And it's not just for Israel. And this is one of the things you clearly do not understand. The same way most don't, who are anti-Semites, you don't get it. I cry for what's going on in Israel. I cry just as much for what we are forced to do. Golda Meir had a great quote. She said that one day we may be able to forgive them for killing Israeli children. We will never be able to forgive them for making us kill their children.
So what about my statement of saying that I also cry for Palestinian children is wrong to you if you also admit it is sad when Palestinian children die?
It's painful, but it is not in any way, shape, or form morally equivalent to October 7th. That is the anti-Semitic bigotry.
But I didn't say.
Okay, it is not a moral equivalency. I mean, I can agree with him that it's not morally the same. You know, what Hamas did was downright evil. They targeted civilians. Okay, what the Israel government is not. It's just not the same thing. The government is trying to get Hamas. They're not targeting civilians. The civilians are being used as human shields. So yeah, it's not a moral equivalency. That's not the point. The point is that you slandered her and said that she refused to condemn Hamas. And she clearly did condemn Hamas. That's the point. But yeah, he's right. It's not necessarily morally the same. Obviously, Hamas is evil, and what Israel's trying to do the right thing. They don't mean to be murdering these children, but those children are being used as human shields. It's not morally the same thing. But that's not the point. The point is she condemned Hamas, and you're still slandering her.
That I just want to be clear. People are watching. It's just not what came out of my mouth. But I'm not gonna. I don't want to get hung up. I don't want to get hung up on that. I want to now point to. You said I wanted to talk about the depravities. I'm going to quote it. She wanted to talk about the depravities of Hamas as an academic discussion. Actually, I was talking about NATO, and here is the clip of what I said when I used the words academic discussion. Take a listen.
I mean, you can go back to me even talking about NATO expansion before things erupted between Russia and Ukraine,
Yes.
and having a meaningful discussion about how much expansion is too much expansion. How would we feel if we had troops on our border? These are things that should be allowed in an academic discussion. You should be able to sit on stage and should be able to debate these ideas without using.
So notice how when she mentions academic discussion, she's talking about NATO and expanding NATO, possibly expanding NATO over to Ukraine. Okay, that's what she's talking about. When she says academic discussion, she's talking about, even before this thing with Ukraine, expanding NATO, blah, blah, blah. She's not talking about October 7th. When talking about the academic discussions, she's not talking about October 7th. It is in regards to NATO.
Ad hominem attacks.
You're using it in the reference, Candace, in the dialogue about October 7th. You're using your discussion.
No, she's not. She's using it in relation to NATO. She literally said NATO when she said it. Go back and listen to it again, dude.
Of NATO as an analogy, in an analogous way. You're using it in the reference, Candace, in the dialogue about October 7th. You're using your discussions of NATO as an analogy, in an analogous way, about how we should be able to discuss October 7th.
From a foreign
There is no analogy.
Okay, so you think that it is fair, after listening to that, me talking about NATO and me talking about Russia and Ukraine, and saying that we should always be able to have an academic discussion about foreign policy, you think your statement still is fair, saying that she wanted to talk about the depravities of Hamas as an academic discussion?
Because you're using that context, and you're the one taking your own quotes out of context.
I played it. I didn't take it out of context. I just played it.
Then play the whole paragraph we were talking before. That's the entire issue.
I did. So the first part was what I just showed you. That was actually a split clip. The first part, the first half of that was when you, the one that we just showed you, when you said that I said it really wasn't that bad and why should she even care? The first part I say I condemn Hamas. And then I said that I've been consistent in always saying that we should have a topic, we should be able to discuss foreign policy removed from ad hominem attacks, because that is the truth and that's how I feel. But to be clear,
Candace,
I just broke out academic discussion because I was referring.
Candace,
okay.
I'm going to ask you really simple questions. Okay?
No. I want to keep going through this. I think it's important here.
It's about this. So I'm going to ask you a simple question. Do you ever mean to hurt people because of their race, religion, or color? Ever?
Do I ever mean to hurt people? Say that
because of their race, religion, or color? Ever?
I can't hear the last part of it. I don't know why I'm not hearing.
I'm sorry. We'll apologize. We know about the technology. Do you ever intend to hurt or want to hurt anyone based on their race, religion, theology, color, etc.?
No, never. Not once.
All right. What you need to hear is your statement. I'm not alone in this, because it is the whole context of October 7th. It's hurtful to Jews.
Okay.
And I'd like to give you an analogy that I think that might really help our dialogue, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
A number of years ago, a movie came out called The Passion of the Christ. Did you see the movie?
Yes, it's a wonderful movie.
Okay. And I saw the movie as well. I saw it the opening day and saw it twice, and I arranged for a screening.
Okay, I'm going to pause it here, and I'm going to get back to this later. Okay, I'm going to pick up where I left off.
I saw the movie as well. I saw it the opening day and saw it twice, and I arranged for a screening of priest students, minister students, rabbinic students, rabbis, ministers, and priests. The Loyola Marymount when I was a professor. Okay. I realized something in watching that movie. There are two movies going on. If you accept Jesus as your Savior, then that movie is so brilliant and so painful about his suffering that it transcends everything else, and that's all you see. And I think you just said it was a brilliant movie, and as many of my friends did, Loyola, etc. I think it was a brilliant movie too as well. If you don't accept Jesus as your Savior, you're not so emotionally attached to all the suffering that Gibson portrays so well.
Okay, if you don't accept Jesus as your Savior, then you're rejecting the prophet whom Moses prophesied about. Abraham saw Jesus' day, he saw it and was glad. If you're rejecting Jesus, you're rejecting the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
And so what you do notice, as an example, are all the anti-Semitic things. So I had a discussion with a woman who's the senior vice president of Loyola when the movie came out. She said, Rabbi, there's no anti-Semitism. I said, actually, I'll give you an example of one scene. There's a scene of little Jewish kids who chase Judas, and they morph into demons. And they're wearing modern 20th century yarmulkes, and they have classic Jewish stereotypical faces, and they morph into demons. And with modern yarmulkes, it's that trope of Jews as demons. And Lainey said to me, I don't remember that scene. And I realized in that moment, she was so emotionally involved in the suffering of Jesus.
I just want to say that I do remember that scene. And honestly, I thought it was stupid. Because the Bible doesn't record anything about Judas being attacked by little demon children. I thought that scene was kind of stupid. It kind of ticked me off. Anyway.
she didn't notice the anti-Semitism. But both are true in the movie. You may not have the desire to have that pain in your heart. But what I'm trying to tell you is, by having a conversation with Tucker Carlson under the umbrella of October 7, which is what that segment was about, and saying that you have a moderate stance, that there should be able to be discussion, just like there is about NATO, it validates the reality of the absolute evil that is unique to October 7. Had you asked me on October 6th what to do with Hamas, despite that in their covenant of 1988, their charter, which I don't know if you've read, despite the fact that in Article 7, 11, and 13, they call for the destruction of all Jews in the world. If you'd asked me on October 6th, I would say we should do whatever we should do for peace. What they did on October 7th was surrender their human souls. They became Amalek, if you're familiar with the character from the Bible. And what they did is so evil, it cannot be compared to anything else. Just like what Hitler did is so evil, no one should compare. I don't care if it's Trump or Obama, no one should compare any political leader today to him. You did it under a guise. Whether you meant to or not, it was anti-Semitic gains.
Okay, so I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't accept that characterization. So what I'm doing now is I'm allowing you to say what you believe and showing the clips, not removed from their context. And we have to just allow, people to take from this discussion.
Honestly, I don't agree with that characterization either. I don't think she's making light of the evil that happened on October 7th. I think that's ridiculous.
What they can. Now, I do want to move on, though, because then the next sentence almost appears to me to be the inversion of what actually happened. You write, she castigated Ben Shapiro for being passionately pro-Israel. I couldn't find a clip on that, so I just wanted to ask you what you were referring to, because actually what happened was Ben insulted me publicly. I have not insulted Ben publicly, so I'm just wondering where that sentence, where we can look for me castigating Ben Shapiro for being pro-Israel.
I will try and find the actual clips, number one. Number two,
just off the top of your head, where I was when I castigated him, where I was when I disrespected him.
Candace, I will be happy to go try and find you things about it. I'm sure Ben can find them as well. I'm sure other people can. I want to make something real clear about this, though. I don't think that there is a place for any of the kind of dialogue, especially between people who are the same conservatives, who are on the same side. I don't think there's a place to personally insult anyone. And that comes from both sides. I don't think it's okay for anyone to insult you or your family. I don't think it's okay for you to insult anyone or their families. I call you an anti-Semite because that is how I judge the way you act and what you said.
Okay.
I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased.
Okay, well, it's an inaccurate judgment, and it's a wrong judgment, okay?
That you've agreed to watch the documentary. Makes me very happy, and you can comment on it after you've watched it. Makes me really happy, honestly. And I think that, and hope that after you see that, you'll have a whole different understanding. But I don't think it's okay for anyone to make personal attacks. Now, when Ben Shapiro calls you an anti-Semite, I call you an anti-Semite. I only wish goodness on your soul, but that is how you act.
Okay.
That's very different than calling you a fill-in-the-blank pejorative.
Okay, but you did write she castigated Ben Shapiro for being pro-Israel. So I'm just asking you.
Happy to find the exact quotes. Happy to find them.
Because it just never happened. I would never.
Okay, you're saying that. I'm happy to find.
Okay, but he did insult me, but I did not insult Ben. So that was very interesting, because I was like, that's almost an inversion of what happened here.
Well, okay, Candace, he says something differently, I think, but I will find and give. I'm happy to let Skylar know a place in and only in that specific interview, by the way.
In that interview.
We're talking about that interview.
That's why I was asking you, what interview? Me and Tucker talking about Ben. You're saying
Tucker,
that I castigated him for being pro-Israel.
Okay, Candace, I'm happy. I'll say it again. I'm happy to find those spaces where you castigated him and send them to Skylar and you can decide to share them with your
I
audience
will.
or not.
We'll put it in right in here. If there's a example of a clip of me doing that, it's actually I abstained from doing that and told Tucker that it's not something that I would do. Okay, then you go on to talk about me attacking Rabbi Shmuley. My audience has already seen him attacking me over the last 2 years. And I'm just going to ask you a basic question. Does a black person or any person have a right to defend themselves?
Absolutely.
Okay, because that is interesting, because Rabbi Shmuley and his daughter have attacked me and made videos of me for 2 years straight. I have responded once, and you're basically saying that I'm anti-Semitic for responding. So I want your perception of when it is that a black person's allowed to respond.
So Candace, first of all, I know Shmuley peripherally. We've probably met a half a dozen times. Okay, he is an incredibly knowledgeable man. He formed L'Chaim Society at Oxford. Incredibly knowledgeable man, and with 9 kids, right? And we have something in Judaism, predates Christianity, but it's also Christianity as well to an extent, called Lashon Hara, the evil tongue. That to gossip, to say certain things like that is really a huge avera. It's a huge sin. It's a huge chayk. I don't know all the things that he has said about you. I do know he's called you an anti-Semite, and so have I. That's not a personal attack on you and your family. For you to call a man who is
Okay, so he's saying that it is not a personal attack to call you an anti-Semite. That's what we genuinely believe that you are. It's not a personal attack to call you an anti-Semite. That's not the point, dude. It's not the point that it's not a personal attack. The point is that it's a lie and it's slander. You ever heard of the 9th commandment, thou shalt not lie? Oh, but it's not a personal attack. Okay, well, it's not a personal attack. You're bearing false witness against thy neighbor. Oh, but it's not a personal attack.
Extremely, so have I. That's not a personal attack on you and your family. I don't know all the things that he has said about you. I do know he's called you an anti-Semite, and so have I. That's not a personal attack on you and your family.
Yeah, it's not a personal attack, but it's a lie. It's slander.
For you to call a man who is extremely knowledgeable, an unholy rabbi, and his hag daughter, forgetting about what he may or may not have done, if he's attacked you personally, if he's said whatever horrific things about you personally, that you are a blankly, 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 blank, he's wrong. If he's attacked you or your children or your family, your mother, for you to, rather than comment on whatever he's done, to call him an unholy rabbi, that is way out of line. You don't even know what a rabbi's supposed to do.
So let me ask you a question.
There's no Jew, by the way,
Do you view that as anti-Semitic for me to respond? So it's okay, so he can attack me for 2 years. Is he a racist, just to be clear?
I don't know when he attacks you, so I can't comment.
So what if I say that the definition of racism changes, and if you attack a black person, you're a racist?
Candace, you don't get to get away with that. It depends how it changes. No, I'm asking,
because at the beginning of this discussion, you did say that you can't tell a black person. It's been 2 years consistently of him and his daughter attacking me, saying that.
I wasn't there. I'm asking you all.
Okay, but if you're saying that you weren't there, why would you put this into writing? Isn't it incumbent upon you to research what's happened before you start saying to me that defending myself is anti-Semitic?
Candace, if he attacked you personally, if he said you were a black fill in the blank, then he should be reprimanded that, but it doesn't justify what you did. You don't know what a rabbi.
That's not the question, Steve Barclay. That's not the question. The question is, if Rabbi Shmuley called her a black fill-in-the-blank, would that make him a racist? That's the question.
Does. You don't know our theology. How dare you call him an unholy rabbi? How dare you go into the misogynistic, the anti-Semitic trope of his hag daughter, something used throughout the late 18th and early through the early 20th century.
Sorry. Hag is now anti-Semitic?
So that is a term of his hag daughter that goes back into the witches of Eastern Europe. Why did you have to call her a hag daughter?
Just
Tell
to
me
be
that.
clear, because she's a witch. I think she's a witch. That's not because she's
All right,
Jewish. I would call someone a hag of any color. I think she's a witch. What they have done over the last 2 years, I believe his daughter is a hag. I said that because that's what I believe. You may disagree with me on that, but to
You know, I remember in the Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian, it was an old hag that was trying to resurrect the White Witch of Narnia. I don't know if you've seen the movie Prince Caspian, but this hag was in the book, and the hag was also in the movie, and this hag was trying to resurrect the White Witch. And C.S. Lewis uses the word hag. I guess C.S. Lewis is anti-Semitic now because he used the word hag when referring to a witch. C.S. Lewis is anti-Semitic now because he used the word hag in the Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. This is ridiculous. Hag is a word that people use when referring to witches.
that's anti-Semitic is ridiculous. I would call any person a hag.
Candace, I'm going to be very clear without trying to be insulting, so please forgive me if it comes off wrong. Okay, it's not meant to.
No, it's fine. You can insult me.
I don't want to.
I've dealt with 2 years of a rabbi insulting me, so I'm totally cool with this. Yeah.
I have no desire to insult anybody. Okay? But do you understand, are you familiar with the history of the Grimm fairy tales and the folk tales of Eastern Europe?
I know that we can go back.
I think that C.S. Lewis was familiar with those fairy tales and folk tales, which is probably why he mentioned a hag in Prince Caspian. Does that mean he's anti-Semitic?
And we can also say
No. I'm asking a specific question.
Okay.
That the witch archetype of those fairy tales were specifically modeled and called the Jews. That the Jews of that part of the world were called hags and witches specifically because they didn't eat the same food. They had different practices, and they were excluded that way as part of the bloodline.
So you are saying that we can make it
into by calling a rabbi's daughter her a witch, a hag daughter. You have tapped into an anti-Semitic trope that goes back hundreds of years, whether you mean to or not.
Okay.
Now that I've told you that,
Yeah.
okay, do you think maybe there are better words to call her than a hag daughter?
I'm actually not going to edit my language for two people that have been attacking me for 2 years. And so what I'm going to say is that, and I want to be very strong on this. I am not going to be told whether you want to dress it up as anti-Semitism, you want to dress it up as that I cannot respond and defend myself. I'm certainly not going to be told that I need to be contained in how I respond after 2 years of consistent attacks from two individuals. So I want to just say on that point, you and I will never come to an agreement. I stand by everything that I said about him, and I'm not going to have that everything that I say, including yesterday, when he says that...
Okay, I think it's important to understand here that she didn't start attacking Rabbi Shmuley and his daughter. They've been attacking her for 2 years. She responded. You know what I mean? It's like that is so different. She didn't go after them. They went after her. And after 2 years of enduring it, she was just at the end of her rope and she had to defend herself. And that makes her anti-Semitic? Really? Because she got fed up with it? What?
Stand by everything that I said about him, and I'm not going to have that everything that I say, including yesterday, when he says that me finding the products and stuff that he sells and promotes as a rabbi to be unholy, to say that I am only saying that because it's made in Israel is totally ridiculous. But what it looks like to a lot of people, and I'm going to tell you this, and I'm expressing this in case you are an individual, as I'm sure you are, that is concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism. But my suspicion is that people that are watching this are going to think that now we are using the word anti-Semitism like BLM began using racism, right? Which is to say that you cannot, let me finish my statement. I'm just telling you what I am going, this is my suspicion. And I have tons of Jewish listeners, but given what you've said about Dave Smith, who is a libertarian, he is not a far left liberal. He just does not support what Israel is doing. So in this, you have said that Jewish people, you've made comments about a lot of Jewish people who maybe don't agree with what's happening in Israel. You are now saying that a person who's been attacked for 2 years still needs to be careful in how they approach a Jewish person that's been doing the attacking. No one is going to accept
That's
that.
not what I'm saying.
That's
Candace,
ridiculous.
Candace,
and
that's
then to
not what
say
I
this
said.
particular word, it sounds like everything that anybody says, it needs to
Candace,
we first need to
you
weigh it
have to
against
go
the
at once.
feelings of somebody and their history. I could find examples of black people being called witches. I can't then say that nobody can ever call a black person a witch, even if it has what happened in Salem. You could go on, right? But the point is that if you're a black person, you've been attacked for 2 years, I don't care if a person calls them a rabbi. In fact, I would question what it means to be a rabbi. Maybe you can explain. If you have been consistently attacking and threatening somebody, literally, he gave a quote to the Jerusalem Post, which actually I like the Jerusalem Post. They report on things very accurately, in which he says that he wants to bankrupt Candace Owens. That is a direct threat to somebody's livelihood. It is despicable, and because you call yourself a rabbi, it does not mean that people cannot say that it is pointedly ridiculous that you are using finances as a mode of threat against people because you don't like their speech. It is ridiculous, and let me tell you what,
First of all, when Rabbi Shmuley says he wants to bankrupt Candace Owens, he's not going to bankrupt her. He's not. Her husband has a net worth of like $180 million. And I think his dad is like a billionaire. So I don't think Shmuley's going to be able to bankrupt Candace Owens. Anyway, I just wanted to say that.
leans into an anti-Semitism. But it is pointedly ridiculous that you are using finances as a mode of threat against people because you don't like their speech. It is ridiculous. And let me tell you what, that leans into an anti-Semitic trope about Jewish people and money. For a rabbi to stand up and say, let's bankrupt
you can talk
her.
over me all day. You can scream.
I'm
you
not
can
screaming.
defend
I've let you talk a lot. That's not fair. I've let you talk a lot.
Candace, it's your show. You're going to edit and say what you
I'm
want to say.
not going to edit this whatsoever. I promise you.
Okay. Great, terrific. I appreciate that. No one has, if someone is attacking you, you can defend yourself. And if someone is saying a bad thing about you, I would even go and defend you as well for them saying that she's a black such and such, she's a female such and such, she's whatever it may be. If he's attacking you, and again, I'm not privy to those 2 years of attacks that you've had. But the moment you start saying things like an unholy rabbi, when you do not know a rabbi's job and you don't know Judaism, you don't know what is considered kadosh, what is considered holy or not holy in Judaism. When the moment you make those kind of comments, you've crossed the line. And you didn't need to make them. I get you're angry. I get you feel violated by him. I get you feel that he attacks you unjustifiably. I haven't been part of the discussions, so he may have. But that doesn't ever give you then the right to say what you said. And it demonstrates, again, a pattern of behavior of an unawareness that you have about Jewish theology, a lack of awareness you have about Jewish history, and about anti-Semitism. The fact that you can't accept what all academics, I shouldn't say all because everything's all, but what academics, what Lord Sachs, what theologians all accept about that anti-Semitism is the unique hate that mutates. What Prager has done a PragerU video on. The fact that you can't even accept that is in itself problematic.
I think that
do you understand that you have decided that you, Candace Owens, are more knowledgeable, wise, and you may be brilliant in a lot of fields.
That's not what I've said. I've never said these things. I didn't say I was more knowledgeable, wise. I just said I call his daughter a hag, and I meant it. I'm not taking the words back. That's what I've said.
But Candace, the fact that you can't accept that the definition of anti-Semitism, that you think you know the definition better than scholars, academics, Jewish theologians, better than rabbis, is a level of hubris. As I say, you may know all sorts of things about all sorts of topics. But you're now dancing in a field where Shapiro dances, I dance, where Rabbi Shmuley, and I'm trying to tell you that you are repeatedly doing anti-Semitic behavior. But your underlying premise that you said at the beginning of our dialogue was that you don't accept that definition of anti-Semitism.
What I said is I don't accept that definitions mutate, is what I said to you at the beginning of this dialogue.
And I'm telling you that's the definition of anti-Semitism. You have now said that you know more than Lord Jonathan Sacks, who I believe, I'm going to guess, actually knew your father-in-law, because it's not that big of a world there. And you can ask anyone about Lord Sacks. You are now saying that you don't accept the definition. Well, okay.
What I'm saying to you is that there's debate even amongst Jewish people about the definition of anti-Semitism, as I pointed to you.
No, that's a pretty much accepted one. If
you're saying the definition mutates, then you're saying it has no definition, right? It has no definition.
That's not true.
Yeah, I mean, if you're saying that the definition just changes over time, and it's like, what is the definition of this thing? Well, we never really know because it's always changing. So it's whatever I say it is at the moment, and you can't define it because you're not Jewish. Only we can define it. But it changes all the time. It's whatever it is we say at the moment. Like, what? How are we able to speak the same language then if you can't give a concrete definition? That's pretty ridiculous.
From the word define, if it has definition, it has a shape, right? You can't say the shape can mutate. The square can become a circle, can become a triangle. That means that it has no shape. You're talking about an amoeba, right?
I'll say it again. It mutates because the definition, again, I'm quoting Lord Sacks, directly quoting him, where he says that Jews have, this is his definition, it's pretty much accepted. Jews have no right to exist collectively as Jews with the same rights as other human beings.
Yes, that sounds like a definition.
And the reason that it mutates.
It's not, okay, this is so stupid. It's not the definition that's mutating. Okay. I would say it's more like the way that it's manifesting can be different, If someone hates Jewish people because they hate their religion, that may change a century later. Okay, a century later they hate them because of their race. And then that may change later when the state of Israel comes up. Okay, so they hate the state of Israel. Or they hate what Israel's doing to Gaza or whatever it may be. Okay, so the hate mutates or it manifests differently. I don't think that means that you can't have a concrete definition. The way it manifests may be different, but I think the definition itself is still a solid, concrete definition. You're hating Jewish people for whatever reason. You hate them either because of their religion or because of their race or because of what the Israel government is doing. You're hating Jewish people, and that is basically the definition. That's the concrete definition. I don't think that's changing. I think it's the way it's manifesting is changing.
How that becomes manifest is because in the Middle
that's what he
Ages,
said, manifest.
Beings.
Yes, that sounds like a definition.
And the reason that it mutates, how that becomes manifest, is because in the Middle Ages, it's about religion. When they come out of the shtetls, when they go into the cosmopolitan...
But isn't it also about religion today? I mean, isn't it true? Didn't the Nazis say, didn't the Nazis refer to Jews as Christ killers? Right? Christ killers? Aren't there people today who claim to be Christian, who do all sorts of hateful things to Jews? Because, you killed Christ. You killed our Messiah. I mean, doesn't that still exist today? So, when he's saying, it mutates over time. Well, so you're saying that the only time that anybody has ever hated a Jewish person for their religion was in the Middle Ages? Like, that never happens today? Like, no, that happens today. So that's why I just think I think Candace is right. It doesn't make sense to say the definition mutates. It can manifest itself in different ways at different times, but I think that even the way it manifested itself in the Middle Ages, it also manifests itself today. Yeah, there are Jewish people who were hated for their religion in the Middle Ages, but that's also true today. But it's also true today that there are people like neo-Nazis who hate Jewish people for their race as well. So I think it can manifest itself in different ways and at different times. But But whatever way that it has manifested itself in the past, it can also manifest itself today. And so, yeah, there are different manifestations of this particular type of hate, but the definition is still pretty concrete, I think. And I think Candace has a pretty good point. There needs to be a concrete definition.
That it mutates how that becomes manifest is because in the Middle Ages, it's about religion. When they come out of the shtetls, when they go into the cosmopolitan areas, and in the 18th through 27th, or 20th century, that hate has now manifested and mutated. So it's not about religion, it's about race.
Just so I'm clear, did Lord Sachs say it mutates, or are you saying it mutates?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. I apologize.
Did Lord Sachs say it mutates, or are
Lord
you?
Sachs. Lord Sachs.
He says it mutates.
Correct.
Can you just re-say the quotation, his direct quotation?
That is a hate that mutates.
It is a hate that mutates.
It is a virus, he calls it, that mutates, and that he's not alone in that. And then by the time you get to the 20th century, it now has mutated to be anti the nation. So the hate manifests.
Okay, so he's saying that today, the only people who are anti-Semitic today are the people who hate the nation of Israel. So he's saying that today, nobody in the whole world, nobody hates Jewish people for their religion. Nobody hates Jewish people for their race. No. Today, people only hate Jewish people for the nation of Israel. See, that doesn't make sense. There are anti-Semites today who hate Jewish people for a number of reasons, either because of their religion or because of their race, or both, or because of Israel, or because of all three. It manifests itself in different ways. I think the definition is still pretty concrete, dude.
As first religion, then as race, and now as nation.
So would you say that anybody who takes issue with anything that Israel does is an anti-Semite?
Of course not. That's ludicrous.
Okay, because...
That's a ludicrous statement.
Okay, because...
Isn't that what she's doing? Isn't she taking issue with what the government of Israel is doing? He just said that that's not anti-Semitic. Well, that's what she's doing. She's taking issue with what the government of Israel is doing. And she asked him, let me rewind that.
Issue with...
Anti the nation. So the hate manifests as first religion, then as race, and now as nation.
So would you say that anybody who takes issue with anything that Israel does is an anti-Semite?
Of course not. That's ludicrous.
Well, then by your own admission, she's not an anti-Semite. Because all she's doing is taking issue with what the government of Israel is doing. Hello?
Okay, because...
That's a ludicrous statement.
Okay, because then why are...
That's a ludicrous statement.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because earlier when we were talking about Dave Smith and I said that some Jewish people don't agree with what Israel is doing as a nation, you suggested that they were self-hating Jews.
That's not what I suggested. What I said is there's a very difference between supporting Israel and supporting Bibi or the government. There's a huge difference. Support of Israel is to understand, and I think, again, this is a place, Eugene Bishop, who is one of the heads of the Central Conference of American Bishops, a great Catholic leader, said a number of things, and Monsignor Royal Vatican of blessed memory, I actually heard him say this. Royal said he was one of the first people to do interfaith dialogue after Vatican II. And Royal said the following. He said that no non-Jew can ever fully understand the relationship between the Jewish people and the land of Israel. In the same way that no Jew can understand how a bunch of old bishops, old cardinals, go into a building, white smoke comes out, and suddenly one of them is infallible. It's a quote from Royal Vatican of blessed memory, one of the founders of interfaith dialogue in the 60s and 70s. What I'm trying to explain to you is our tie to Israel. That when you make an anti-Zionist, not just you, when anyone makes a comment, an anti-Zionist comment, that is anti-Semitism.
But when you say anti-Zionist...
That's not facts, etc.
Mm-hmm. And when you say anti-Zionist, you don't mean criticizing Israel's government. Just to be clear.
You can criticize the government.
Okay. So I'm just not...
But criticizing...
Okay, but isn't that what Candace has done? Criticized the government for killing women and children, even though those women and children were being used by Hamas as human shields. Hasn't she criticized the government for killing them? Isn't that what Dave Smith has done?
But let's go. Can we follow that path for a moment? Because I think this might get us somewhere. And as I said from the beginning, I'm optimistic. I'd like to get somewhere. To criticize Israel's government is one thing. You want to do that, great. Especially you want to criticize America's involvement in its relationship with Israel. You're an American citizen. I'm supportive of that. But understanding, have you ever read the Covenant of 1988 for Hamas?
No, I have not read the Covenant of 1988 for Hamas.
So let me tell you about Hamas. In their charter, which you can find easily online, the Covenant of 1988, they claim that they are the subsidiary for the region of the Muslim Brotherhood, which I'm sure you know a lot about or learned a lot. And they call for the obliteration of all Jews. They say in Article 7 that the Muslim Day of Judgment will not come until every Jew is killed and those few who still live hide between, and this is a quote, between the rocks, behind the rocks and the trees call out, "O Abdullah, O Muslim, there's a Jew hiding behind me, come kill him." The definition of a Palestine, which there is no historical Palestine, the definition of a Palestine from the river to the sea, from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, means no Israel. It is, as Lord Sachs said, it is that they don't have a right to live collectively in a nation. And so it's one thing to say I don't agree with what the government's doing. It's an entire other thing to create a moral equivalency, which you keep doing inappropriately. A moral equivalency between anything Israel does and what happened October 7th. There is no equivalency. Israel's not going out to go out and try to go into Arab homes and to take and torture a child in front of the parents and then kill the child and kill the parents. Israel doesn't do that. Israel is the most ethical army in the nation.
I think we might be having a fundamental disagreement on what moral equivalency is, and I tend to agree with Dave Smith that actually what moral equivalency is saying that irrespective of anything, we are going to judge these people the same. That would be morally equivalent, right? But we don't need to go into that because I didn't do any of that, and I just totally disagree with how you've characterized my discussion with Tucker Carlson at all. Because, like I said,
yeah, that's right. She didn't do any of that. She wasn't saying that it was morally equivalent. She wasn't saying that what Hamas did on October 7th is morally equivalent to what the Israeli government is doing in Gaza. She never said that they're morally equivalent. She never said that. He's putting words in her mouth and saying, "You said this." No, she didn't say that.
Clearly said I condemned what Hamas did, and then I said that it's sad when a Palestinian child dies, and then you agreed that it's sad when a Palestinian child dies. So I don't understand why these two statements seem to you to be trying to morally equate anything. I just am making two statements.
11 minutes and 20 seconds into your video, you make the comment about it being, I believe that's the time's place, you make the comment that you have a moderate stance and everything else is extremist. And what I'm trying to explain to you is that and I hope once you see the idea film, we can have another dialogue.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
She did say that she has a moderate stance. Okay, yeah, she said she has a moderate stance. She didn't say I'm making a moral equivalence. She's not saying that what Hamas did is the same as what Israel is doing. She didn't say that. She never said that. He's making that up.
That I do think that when anything, horrific happens, it turns a lot of people into extremists overnight, and they become very extreme in their language.
You have judged.
You've not let me finish my statement. Okay, I've let you talk very much. What I have said is that when anything happens, what tends to happen after that is people become very extreme in their rhetoric. And actually, there is a really good example. Is it Joel over at Breitbart who wrote something very extreme following October 7th online, and then a couple of days later, he wrote a long paragraph apologizing and saying why he was emotional, why his rhetoric was extreme, and what he actually wants to accomplish. He recognized his own emotion. And people get very extreme when they're emotional. It's understandable. But when they are in that emotion, they start to perceive other people who are actually saying what they've always said as somehow attacking them or saying something that's wrong. And then usually...
You see, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Is that people like Rabbi Shmuley, Rabbi Barclay, and others, they're basically being emotional. And so when she just, expresses sympathy for Palestinian children dying in Gaza, then people have this emotional response and they attack her. When in reality they're being overly emotional and they're not really thinking about what they're saying.
The scales fall from their eyes, the more distance there is from the actual event that took place, and they're able to hear things more rationally again. That is all that I was saying with Tucker, is I haven't really moved any of my stances whatsoever, and that is why people are bothered. Whether you think that's understandable or not is not going to change things. I do want to get to this, though, because like I said, we're not going to agree on Rabbi Shmuley. We're not going to agree on his daughter. I'm not going to agree on your interpretation that my defense of myself is somehow anti-Semitism. I intend to keep defending myself against somebody that I, view to be absolutely despicable. And actually, what I will say is that in terms of anti-Semitism, I think a lot of it stems from what I would say is individuals feeling that amidst their own communities, let's remove Jews from this. If a black person does something wrong, I immediately call it out on my show. I've said tons of things about black people acting like thugs. I've stood up against black people when they were using racism, basically just to absolve themselves from any critique. But when it comes to the Jewish community, it's very odd, I think, to watch the indefensible get defended, right? The indefensible get defended. Like what Rabbi Shmuley did over the last 2 years.
Okay, I'm going to pause it here. And I'll come back later. All right, I'm going to pick this back up again.
Black people when they were using racism, basically just to absolve themselves from any critique. But when it comes to the Jewish community, it's very odd, I think, to watch the indefensible get defended, right? The indefensible get defended. Like what Rabbi Shmuley did over the last 2 years, I would expect people to come out and say, it's obviously wrong. Instead, what we have is you coming out and saying, well, what Candace is saying in defense of herself is actually what's wrong, rather than saying maybe both. Maybe saying what Rabbi Shmuley did was absolutely wrong. But you can't take the time to look into what he said for the last 2 years, is what you're saying.
Candace,
but you wrote this article in defense of him.
Candace, this is not about Shmuley, and it was not in defense of him. And I said to you earlier in this talk, if he was saying inappropriate things, he should be reprimanded for that.
That's not what you said here in your article, though.
This is about you and your pattern of behavior and your pattern of words. And I have no issue, and maybe you should do a little bit more reading of what I've written.
You wrote, like any father, Shmuley defends his children when attacked.
Wait. I have taken on the unethical behavior of Jewish leaders and Jewish organizations publicly to the detriment of my own life. I've taken on Jonathan Greenblatt for 5 years of what he's done to the ADL. I got the receipts to prove it. You can read the articles. Okay, I've exposed him for what he's done that is not right. So when you make a comment, like when someone does something wrong in the Jewish community doesn't say anything. You and I are talking, and I have a history of both calling out people who are unethical within my own tradition and standing up for other groups that are not in my tradition that are being persecuted.
Okay.
Last year, about a year, and you didn't do the research about that, because about a year and a half ago, Catholics were being so disrespected. I'm not Catholic, but the LA Dodgers wanted to honor the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, a trans group that dresses up like nuns, and honoring Dodger Stadium. I not only wrote articles, my articles helped promote General Flynn to help promote Catholics for Catholics to do a demonstration at Dodger Stadium that I spoke at.
But that had nothing to do with Jewish people.
Wait, and I've called out Jewish people. Why don't you Google my name and Jonathan Greenblatt?
Great, I'm glad. I think that all together, everybody.
So I'm not alone.
I'm glad. What I am trying to communicate to you that when people can go, and as they have seen, as I showed on my show, all of the attacks from Rabbi Shmuley, which were available to you when you wrote this article, and then they see you write something. Please let me finish my statement. They see you write something Rabbi Shmuley is an author of 31 books, was the rabbi at Oxford for 11 years, has a 30-year career of writing, speaking, preaching, and guiding people in Jewish beliefs. He has also been an activist in many causes, and most importantly, is a loving father of 9 children. And like any father, he defends his children when attacked and is proud of their accomplishments. Hold.
Now, notice how Candace is reading his article. This rabbi, Michael Barclay, right here, he's talking about Rabbi Shmuley and saying all sorts of good things. Oh, Rabbi Shmuley's so good. He does this, he does that. Look at how awesome he is. And he has all these kids, and he defends his kids, and he's a great guy. And then he goes on to say all these terrible, horrible things about Candace. You know what I mean? It's like it's a very sharp contrast between the two.
I never attacked them first. They've been attacking me consistently for 2 years. And then you go on. Hold on.
Candace, you're smarter than this.
I know, but just let me finish. Then you go on and you talk about me. People might say this might be a racist trope, but here we go. She dropped out of college because of a quote-unquote issue with a student loan, never even voted in elections until she had successfully created her unique brand, a pretty black woman who's politically conservative. When anyone confronts her about her lack of knowledge or wisdom, she retreats to the position of counterattacking them for not appreciating a strong black woman who goes against the stereotype. When you read something like that and you see that comparison and how you are presenting people, despite the fact that factually speaking, Rabbi Shmuley and his daughter were the ones attacking me for 2 years straight. I didn't even know who they were. When you speak about me like that and make it seem like I'm sorry, let me use your words here, lack of knowledge or lack of wisdom, how do you think the public perceives that when I'm the one that's being attacked?
I'm not concerned about how
So did you notice the contrast? Rabbi Barclay in his article says all these good things about Rabbi Shmuley. Good thing after good thing after good thing about Rabbi Shmuley. And then he starts talking about Candace Owens and says bad thing after bad thing after bad thing about Candace Owens. It's a pretty sharp contrast.
public perceives it or not. What I'm concerned about is if you believe, and I cannot judge this because I'm not aware of 2 years. I don't follow it. Okay, just my life is too busy. I got a congregation and teenagers and all sorts of things. If you believe that Shmuley Boteach and his daughter are doing things that are attacking you on a personal level, not attacking your persona, not attacking what you do. My calling you as anti-Semite is attacking you for how you act, not attacking you as a human being. Please understand there is a difference of who we are and how we are.
She dropped out of college.
Wait, please let me finish. If Shmuley is attacking you, if he is attacking you on...
Okay, he made a really good point here that there's a difference between who we are and how we are. That's really important. That's really important to understand. There's a difference between who we are and how we are. Now, apply that to Rabbi Shmuley. Rabbi Shmuley, yeah, he's Jewish. Yeah, he's a rabbi. Okay. But why is Candace Owens responding back to Rabbi Shmuley? Because he's Jewish? Does Candace Owens hate Rabbi Shmuley because he's Jewish? Because she's a Jew-hating bigot? No, Candace Owens is responding to Rabbi Shmuley because of how he's behaving, because of how he's acting. There's a difference between who we are and how we are. And Candace Owens was criticizing Rabbi Shmuley, not because of who he is, not because he's Jewish, not because he's a rabbi, not because of who he is, but because of how he is, because of how he's acting, how he's behaving, how he's attacking her and mistreating her and slandering her. She's not being a Jew-hating bigot. She's criticizing a man who is behaving badly. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's Jewish. It has to do with the fact that he's acting and behaving in a way that is ridiculous.
Any personal way. That doesn't mean it's okay for you to attack him. You know better than that. You teach your children all that better than that.
No, I actually, like everything I'm saying about him, like if this is holy, like, you know, selling butt plugs with your daughter, I don't know.
Okay,
maybe
wait.
You're right. I think it's gross.
Right,
I think it's disgusting. And I do not, it's not the definition of holy in the Christian faith, is what I would say. It's weird to me.
Well, okay.
It's very weird. And this could be a difference in our religions, but by the way, your religion does not trump my religion. So I think that you should respect the fact when I say something is unholy, I am referring to my religion. His relationship between him and his daughter is very creepy to me. The sex podcast is very creepy to me. The idea of sitting down and talking to your father about, topics of sex in any regard is creepy to me. Him promoting butt plugs that are sold by his daughter is creepy to me. I have a right to say that I find this to be utterly unholy, and that any faith leader, at least in the Christian community, would agree that all of this is giving us very weird vibes between the father and daughter relationship. I can say that all I want. And I do think that part of it, and this is where we get to the topic of where people perceive this and they say, is this a form of Jew supremacy? To say, suspend your Christianity because my Judaism matters more, is the feeling that I get when you say, you don't get to say it's an unholy rabbi. Pornography is unholy, in my view. You might disagree with that. Candace. It is unholy to Christians. The topic of pornography, peddling pornography, selling butt plugs, the commercialization of pornography is unholy. And I'm going to continue to call him unholy because that is what I deem him to be. And I say that as a Christian.
Okay, so Candace, if you made the comment, right, and you said that this man, rabbi or not rabbi, because it doesn't matter if he's a rabbi or not, from what you're telling me, your understanding of your theology is, okay? Your understanding of your Christian theology, I don't know what denomination or sect you're part of, is that what he's doing is unholy. Then for you to say that, from my Christian perspective, what this man is doing is unholy, I absolutely respect. For you to say, my position as a mother, as a woman, I find what is going on here is creepy. I don't find that anti-Semitic in the slightest, either of those comments. I really don't. But so please hear that, because if you had said this guy is creepy, okay, that's not anti-Semitic. That's your opinion on the relationship of what he's doing. If you said what this business that he and his daughter, I don't know if it's he and his daughter or just his daughter, I don't know if they're combined in the business, I have no idea. But that this business is, from my Christian perspective, is very unholy, that's not anti-Semitic. It's not. I mean, if you had said that, I wouldn't be talking about it.
But I shouldn't have to say as a Christian. It's just, I am a Christian and it's unholy.
Okay, no, you determine, you who are not a theologian, who does not know Jewish theology at all, and I'm pretty sure doesn't know what Gemara or Mishnah are or how they're used, or the dialogues about marital intimacy, you've decided he's unholy.
Yeah.
Now, if you said, from my Christian perspective, he's an unholy man, or he's doing unholy things, God bless you, and I'm fine with it. But you didn't. You said it's an unholy rabbi and his hag daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And again, what I was...
So notice how he mentions the Mishnah and the Gemara or whatever. And, he's saying, okay, what you need to say is, if you're going to say that Rabbi Shmuley is unholy because of his gross stuff, selling butt plugs with his daughter and peddling pornography and all this stuff. If you're going to say that that is unholy and what he's doing is unholy, then you need to say, as a Christian, I'm saying this. As a Christian woman, I'm saying this. Or as a mother, I'm saying this. You can't just come out and say that's unholy. No, you have to say, as a Christian, I believe that's unholy. That's ridiculous. She doesn't have to specify that she's a Christian. She doesn't have to specify, this is my opinion as a Christian. Okay, she is a Christian, and she's saying it. Obviously, she's saying it from her Christian perspective. You don't have to state the obvious, okay? If you already know that she's a Christian, if you already know that she's stating her opinion, then you already know that she's stating her opinion as a Christian. She doesn't have to specify that. That's obvious. Okay, you don't have to state the obvious. It's kind of like when the Bible says that God is the creator of all things. It doesn't have to say God is the creator of all things except for himself. The Bible doesn't have to say God is the creator of all things. Oh, but by the way, he didn't create himself. Yeah, obviously he didn't create himself. Duh. You don't have to state the obvious. If you already know she's a Christian, she doesn't have to state the obvious. As a Christian, I believe what he's doing is unholy. As a Christian, I believe that pornography is unholy. She doesn't have to state that. Oh, but if you just come out and say that it's unholy, well, you're anti-Semitic. What? And by the way, for him to say that she doesn't know anything about the Jewish religion, excuse me? I'm pretty sure that the Christian Bible contains the Old Testament, which has the law and the prophets and the Psalms and all of the Old Testament stuff. Okay, and obviously this stuff is condemned in the Bible. And so he's basically, what he's doing is in a way, he's almost defending Rabbi Shmuley. He's almost like saying, "Oh, wait a minute now. According to these Jewish teachings, according to the Mishnah, and according to the Gemara, and all these things that you don't understand, according to all of this Jewish theology that you don't understand," and it's almost like he's almost trying to say that the kosher sex shop that Rabbi Shmuley's daughter runs, it's almost like he's defending that and saying, well, in Judaism, it's okay. It's almost like he's defending Rabbi Shmuley in this weird, perverted sex shop, which they call kosher sex shop. It's really weird. And it's really creepy. But it's almost like he's trying to defend. It's like he's trying to say, well, if you want to say that it's unholy from your Christian perspective, that's fine. But don't you dare say to us that it is just point blank unholy, period. How dare you say that? Because you haven't read the Gemara, you haven't read the Mishnah, you haven't read the Talmud, you haven't read all these Jewish teachings. So you can't say that. And it's like, wait a minute, what? Are you defending the kosher sex shop? Are you defending the butt plugs and the peddling of pornography? Because it sounds to me like Rabbi Barclay is almost trying to say, hey, if you just read the Mishnah, if you just read these Jewish teachings, well, then you'll find out that this disgusting sex shop, it's okay. What? And by the way, I've read some of what Rabbi Shmuley has to say, and Rabbi Shmuley, says, I've read what he has to say. He says things that are really weird. He says that homosexuality is not immoral. He literally says that on his YouTube page, or in some YouTube video that I saw of him.
Homosexuality is not a moral sin because it involves two consenting adults. Homosexuality is not a moral sin because it involves two consenting adults.
And he actually endorses a man and a woman inside of a marriage practicing sodomy. It is unholy according to the Bible. And so I think Rabbi Michael Barclay here I think he's actually defending Rabbi Shmuley's sex shop. That's kind of what it sounds like. I'm going to back up a little bit.
He's a Christian, and it's unholy.
Okay, no, you determine, you who are not a theologian, who does not know Jewish theology at all, and I'm pretty sure doesn't know what Gemara or Mishnah are or how they're used, or the dialogues about marital intimacy. You've decided he's unholy.
Yeah.
Now, if you said, from my Christian perspective, he's an unholy man or he's doing unholy things, God bless you, and I'm fine with it. But you didn't. You said it's an unholy rabbi and his had daughter.
So what are you saying, Rabbi? Rabbi Barclay, what are you saying? Are you saying that if she reads the Mishnah and the Gemara, well, then now you'll understand why it's okay to peddle pornography? What? Are you saying it is holy from your Jewish perspective? What? Weird.
And again, what I was really hoping to hear, which I haven't heard from you once in this very long talk, is the realization of saying, you know what, Rabbi? I hadn't thought about that. You're right. I understand how that would be considered anti-Semitic, and that wasn't my intention. I have a problem with this man. I have a problem. I've seen zero so far, other than the fact that you say you're willing to watch a documentary film by the IDF. I've seen zero self-responsibility of saying, you know what? I didn't mean that. I didn't say that. Or, excuse me, I didn't mean that. That's not my intention, and I'm sorry.
Well,
Now, notice how what he's saying here is that if she says something that she does not mean to be anti-Semitic, but somebody else misinterprets it as anti-Semitic, then she has to apologize for it. So if she says something that she has no intention whatsoever to hurt a Jewish person, and yet for whatever reason a Jewish person hears it and they feel offended by it, they feel attacked by it, then she has to apologize them because of the way that they feel, because they took it wrong, because they misinterpreted what she said. And so she has to apologize because of somebody else's misinterpretation. Notice how that's literally what he's asking her to do. He's asking her, well, you need to apologize not because you meant something as anti-Semitic, but because somebody else misunderstood it to be anti-Semitic. Therefore, you need to apologize for it. You need to apologize because somebody else felt that way. That's what he's asking her to do.
I haven't heard that from you once.
What I made clear to you is
that shows me that's really disappointing to me.
Well, I don't want you to be disappointed. And as I always say to people, I'm serious. I don't want you to be disappointed. I understand that human beings have a lot of feelings, right? Everybody has, you can say, I watched this and this is how I felt about it. For me, the reality of what I have actually said and the way that it is being interpreted, I don't think is fair. That's why I wanted to go through the clips of what you said, for what you wrote that I said versus what I actually said. When I did condemn Hamas, you're saying I didn't condemn Hamas. You're saying I attacked Ben Shapiro. You don't have the clip available. I feel that actually what's happening here is you want me to apologize for things that I never said on the basis of how you felt. And that's not fair.
I have a suggestion. Okay, I have a suggestion. Okay?
That's exactly what he's saying that she needs to do. She needs to apologize, not because she meant it that way, but on the basis that that's how it made him feel. Well, it made me feel bad, so you have to apologize because I mistook what you said, therefore you have to apologize for my misunderstanding. Right.
You and I are both politically conservative, right? I mean, I am, and I know you are. And I would hope that we're all facing the same direct way. I'd like to ask you some specific questions about the things in that article, and you just tell me, okay? Yeah. And so if I misinterpreted something, if I misread something, if I misheard something, or you feel I misunderstood something, communication happens, especially when we're doing writing. Miscommunication happens. So I'm going to ask you simple questions that would define anti-Semitism with the vast majority of rabbis, Jews, and theologians. Mm-hmm. Do you believe October 7th was uniquely evil? Okay, I'm
going to pause it right here, and I'm going to come back to it. He's going to ask her all about, do you believe that October 7th was uniquely evil and worse than anything that's ever happened in all of history? Even worse than the Holocaust, which is crazy because he literally has a YouTube video on his YouTube page, which I subscribe to his YouTube page. He literally says that October 7th was worse than the Holocaust.
October 7th. Arguably the single worst day in modern Jewish history. I have said it was worse than the Holocaust, and people have questioned me on that. I believe it is. I have said it was worse than the Holocaust, and people have questioned me on that. I believe it is.
Which is crazy because how many Jews died on October 7th? It was about 1,160. Just under 1,200 people. Or just under 1,200 Jews died on October 7th. How many Jews died in the Holocaust? Like 6 million? And yet he literally has a video on his YouTube channel where he literally says that what happened on October 7th, 2023, was worse than the Holocaust. He literally says that on his YouTube page. It's absolutely crazy. So I'll get into that when I get back. Okay, I'm back. I'll pick this up where I left off. I'm going to back up a little bit. All right.
Communication happens, especially when we're doing writing. Miscommunication happens. So I'm going to ask you simple questions that would define anti-Semitism with the vast majority of rabbis, Jews, and theologians. Mm-hmm. Do you believe October 7th was uniquely evil? and on a whole other level than anything going on, especially anything going on in Gaza or anything else right now. From the moral, ethical, your point of view as a Christian, I am asking you point blank, do you feel that October 7th, what happened, is uniquely at a whole other level and depth of evil? Yes or no?
I believe that what happened on October 7th is evil. We've seen
Do you
tons.
believe it is a whole other level than anything else, especially what is going on in Gaza?
I think that there have been things that have happened historically, like the Holocaust, like what the Bolsheviks did to Christians, the Christian Holocaust, that I
You're
don't...
not answering.
No, I'm trying to answer your question. I guess I would like you to explain to me, in your own context, Holocaust versus what happened on October 7th. Why is October 7th uniquely evil compared to the Holocaust? Maybe you can...
This is a really good point that she's making. I'll be honest with you. I don't even understand. Why is he even asking this? Why is he even saying this? Do you believe that what happened October 7th, when Hamas attacked Israel, October 7th, 2023, do you believe that that is worse than anything that has ever happened in all of history, even worse than the Holocaust? Whoa! Why would that be worse than the Holocaust? You're talking just under 1,200 Jews, about 1,160 Jews, who died October 7th because of the Hamas attacks. And you're going to make a moral equivocation with the Jews that died in the Holocaust? The 6 million Jews who died in the Holocaust? What? And so she brings that up, and she's like, just kind of like, what in the world? What is this guy talking about? It's really weird. Is he saying that the Hamas attacks on October 7th was worse than the Holocaust? Well, actually, yeah, he is, because that's what he says on his website. On his YouTube page, he literally says that. It's weird. And he says, well, it's because the Hamas attacks, they were torturing the Jews. They didn't just kill them, they tortured them. Okay, I'm pretty sure that there were Jews in the Holocaust who were tortured. Watch Schindler's List. Anyway.
And in October 7th, you don't know your history about the Holocaust then. In October 7th, the Holocaust was a machine that was made and cost Germany the war.
So you'd say October 7th?
October.
Like what? The Holocaust cost Germany the war? So are you trying to say that the Holocaust was a good thing? I don't think it's a good thing. Oh, well, it cost Germany the war. What? It's weird.
7th was a specific intention. Remember that in the Holocaust, the first attacks are war attacks. It is all about a war effort on world domination. October 7th is about to torture and do such horrific things to civilians, to the weak, the innocent, the old. So I'm asking you a very simple question. I'm
honestly, you asked it. I'm ready to answer it. I think it was evil, and if you feel it's uniquely, we've bombed a million Iraqi civilians. You're talking about just like if you're weighing against civilian costs. And again, I think how you said about when you read you watch the Passion of the Christ, and you have, your eyes when you watch it, and I have my Christian eyes. Very difficult for me to say when the greatest Holocaust that ever happened was against Christians, and what the Bolsheviks did to us, drowning us in barges. I cannot discount the things that have happened to Christians. We are actually the most persecuted religion in the world, and it's never described as uniquely evil. And so what happened on October 7th is evil, full stop. What has happened in the past to Christians, what is happening currently to Christians in Armenia, it's evil. So your feeling that it's unique is probably, I want to recognize it, but I don't want to sit here and pretend that
make a simpler question then.
I minimize what I've been through. I mean, unique evils, slavery. I'm a black woman. I mean, there's tons of things that have happened, and I don't want to pretend that I think that would happen.
And there's another point that she's making, that he's trying to get her to say that what happened on October 7th was uniquely evil, even worse than Africans being taken from West Africa and brought over on slave ships to America in such a way to where they're packed in like sardines. And when they made it to America, I think like only like maybe a third or maybe 2/3 of them actually survived even the trip to America. Like a whole third or 2/3 of them actually died on the ship to America. They didn't even make it to America and get sold as slaves. They died on the ship, packed in like sardines. And he's trying to get her to say that, what happened October 7th is worse than all of that. All of anything that has ever happened in all of history. What? How do you even know what happened in all of history? It's so weird. There's evils that happen. This is evil. That's evil over there. And, well, what, is this one more evil than that one? Or is that one more evil than this one? Why are you even playing that game? It's a weird game that he's playing.
It happens to Jews, it's somehow more evil or more unique than it happens to other groups all around the world.
I'm going to ask you a specific, simpler question. Do you believe there is a qualitative difference between what was done on October 7th and the horrible tragedies that are going on in Gaza, with children being used as human shields and dying and being killed, with all of that? There are tragedies going on in Gaza we both agree on. Do you believe that there is a radical difference between what happened October 7th and what is going on there, or do you believe that there is really not a moral and huge qualitative difference? It's one or the other.
How it's happening is different. There's no question that it's different.
It's evil just the same way.
Children, innocent children dying. If the consequence of children is dying, of course it is.
Notice how she acknowledged that it's different. It is different. Because Hamas was attacking civilians, and there was nothing to provoke them to attack civilians. They weren't. It wasn't any sort of a military strategy. They were just attacking civilians. That's not what Israel's doing. Israel's doing something much different. They're trying to attack Hamas. Hamas is hiding, and they're using women and children as human shields. And so Israel is trying to attack Hamas, but there's innocent civilians who are dying in the process because of the fact that Hamas is hiding behind human shields. So obviously it's different. She acknowledged that it's different. And yet he still wants to call her an anti-Semite.
It is an evil thing for innocent children to be dying.
Do you believe? Okay, so I want to make sure I'm hearing you. Okay, I don't want to misinterpret you. I am asking for specific answers.
It is always an evil, and I again say this as a Christian, it is always an evil when innocent children are killed. Always an evil.
So do you believe that October 7th is more evil than what's happening when the innocent children are dying?
Pardon?
I'm asking you.
What?
Why is he even playing this game? I mean, it's literally, he's goofing around, playing a game. Do you admit that this is more evil than that, and that's more evil than this, and this is more evil than that? Why are you playing that game? She condemns both of them. She condemns the terrorist attacks, and she condemns, when innocent children are killed, she says that that's evil. That's sad. She acknowledges that it's different, but both are evil.
I'm asking you the simple question. Do you believe there's a greater depth of evil in what happened October 7th than any of the tragedies that are happening in Gaza?
Let me actually toss this back to you, because this is a great question.
So
I think No. This is a great question. I'm glad you asked this, but I want to toss this to you because one of the things that was also radically misinterpreted. Actually, I was talking about Brian Mast in his language when he said that there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian life. I thought that was horrifically genocidal to say that. And that has been a huge conflict of whether or not what's happening is genocidal or if it's not genocidal. And something that I don't think that we have a clear definition on is genocide. And this is, obviously the word was created post-Holocaust. And so
now that was a really interesting quote. I need to backtrack a little bit. Listen to that.
evil in what happened October 7th than any of the tragedies that are happening in Gaza.
Let me actually toss this back to you, because this is a great question.
not
I think
yet,
a lot.
no.
No. This is a great question. I'm glad you asked this, but I want to toss this to you because one of the things that was also radically misinterpreted. Actually, I was talking about Brian Mast in his language when he said that there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian life. I thought that was horrifically genocidal to say.
There's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian life. Can you believe that somebody would say that? There's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian life? Now, she said that there's some guy who said that, and that's a really evil thing to say. That's a supremacist thing to say. How can you say that just because somebody is of the Palestinian race, whatever race they are, that there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian life? That's a genocidal thing to say. It's a supremacist thing to say. And she's condemning this sort of supremacist type of talk. I mean, isn't that the right thing to do?
That. And that has been a huge conflict of whether or not what's happening is genocidal or if it's not genocidal. And something that I don't think that we have a clear definition on is genocide. And this is, obviously the word was created post-Holocaust. And so I would just like to get from you, because we are running out of time.
So I'm not trying to, I don't use the word.
You don't use the word genocide?
Nope.
So you wouldn't describe the Holocaust as a genocide?
I would describe it in other ways. It's just not the language I use. So for me to say that this is a definition would be arrogant and inappropriate, because
but what percentage of...
Okay, so let me get this straight. Arrogant and inappropriate. So you're saying that just because you don't use the word genocide, then that means that if you were to go get a dictionary and actually read the definition of what genocide means, that would be arrogant and inappropriate. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Reading dictionaries is arrogant and inappropriate. God forbid that you should read a dictionary and read the definition of the word genocide, because after all, he doesn't use that word. It would be arrogant and inappropriate to get a dictionary and define a word.
A certain group of people have to die that would constitute a genocide. Because I think that's part of it. It's a back forth where it's like, listen, if we can just say X amount of people, percentage of people dying of the same ethnic group.
Candace, I'm telling you point blank. You're asking me to define a term that I don't go around utilizing.
Oh, okay. So you don't go around utilizing the word. Get a dictionary. Because other people use that word.
Okay.
So I don't. You're saying define this, and what I'm saying is, I don't use that term. I am asking you a very simple question, which you have avoided a yes or no on.
I haven't avoided a yes or no on anything. I've been answering you this entire time. I am just saying that if the consequence for me, I cannot, what happened on October 7th to me was so horrific and was so evil. And it partially, the reason why I believed it was so horrific and so evil was there was no military target. You were just targeting civilians, and civilians are innocent, right? And so for you to then tell me, is it more or less evil when now innocent civilians, what is the number at? Can you tell me what the number is at of Palestinian children?
No, I can't, because Hamas stories aren't. I
know, but I'm asking you. I'm not asking Hamas. I'm asking you.
Candace, I'm going to try and make this.
So when you're asking me to compare, and what you're actually asking me to do is to compare, is to state whether or not I believe.
I'm going to make it easier than that. Okay?
Please let me finish this. I feel that question, okay, is you trying to make a statement
Let me try to get the question, okay? I believe that what happened on October 7th is a uniquely dark form of evil on a whole other level, in every way, shape, or form of evil than anything that is happening in Gaza. Do you agree with my statement or disagree? I don't need explanations. Do you agree with me or disagree?
I have said to you 1,000 times, I feel like what you are asking me to do right now, I'm looking at the cost of life. This is how I
Okay,
analyze
so
things.
you can't agree. You're not going to agree with me.
I am uncomfortable with the amount of innocent life that is lost right now in Gaza.
So you're not going to
I
agree
am not.
with me. Okay,
I am.
great.
I
Let's
am.
move on.
I am.
Let's move on because
Okay.
there's other stuff. Because there's another piece.
So basically, he is getting frustrated with her because she's not taking a supremacist viewpoint. When Hamas attacked Israelis on October 7th, he wants her to say that that is more evil when the Israeli military attacks Palestinians in Gaza. So he's basically asking her to take this supremacist viewpoint. I mean, maybe it's not that way because what Hamas did is, I think he's probably right that on a moral standpoint, what Hamas did is probably much more morally sickening and evil than the military simply trying to attack Hamas, and there's human casualties in the process. It's just that when you look at the numbers, isn't it like 20,000 or 30,000 Palestinians, you know what I mean? Compared to like 1,160. And it's almost as if he's trying to get her to take this supremacist viewpoint. It's almost like he's trying to say, well, you know, these lives over here matter more than those lives over there. You know, and she's refusing to take that supremacist standpoint.
Because part of it feels like you want me to weigh, like, is Jewish innocent life worth more than Palestinian innocent life? And I'm not comfortable with that.
You've already made that.
Yeah, see, that's exactly the point. It's like he's trying to get her to say, is Jewish life more valuable than Palestinian life? It's like, it sounds like he's trying to get her to say that. You know, he's trying to get her to take this supremacist stance, and she's refusing to do that. Like, no, I'm not going to take a supremacist. I'm not going to say that this life matters more than that life. You know, she's basically saying all lives matter. Let me back that up a bit. What is she saying there?
Part of it feels like you want me to weigh, like, is Jewish innocent life worth more than Palestinian innocent life? And I'm not comfortable with that.
You've made that clear that you don't view it the same, or you'd be able to say that what happened October 7th.
I view innocent life as innocent life. Like, I'm saying, it's just innocent life.
Yeah. He's trying to get her to take that supremacist viewpoint, and she's like, no, I'm not falling for that. I'm not. Innocent life is innocent life.
Candace, you've made it clear you weren't able to answer yes to that question. Fine. Let's move on to something else that is.
But I want to again state.
You've already made yourself clear. I don't need more.
No.
You've made yourself clear. You're good. I'm good.
Please stop, because it's important for listeners to understand. When you ask a question like that, okay, it's different than you saying, do you think it is justified for people to defend themselves? You are basically asking me a question: is more Israeli life, is that more of an evil when it's lost than when more more innocent Palestinian life? And I am not comfortable with that question.
Candace, that's not what I said.
But that is.
No, I made a statement of my beliefs and only asked you if you could agree or disagree. You couldn't take a stand. I'd like to move to something else in that article that we have not discussed, because I am conscious of time, which is...
I mean, to be a little bit fair on Rabbi Barclay's part, it is true that what Hamas did is very, very, very evil. The Israeli government is not purposefully trying to murder children, whereas Hamas was purposely trying to murder innocent civilians completely unprovoked for no reason. It is, I mean, to be fair on his part, he's not necessarily trying to promote some sort of supremacist viewpoint. But then again, it's at the same time, it's possible that he might have a supremacist viewpoint, that Jewish life is more valuable than Palestinian life. You know, especially when, you know, if there's like 20 or 30,000 Palestinians who've died, and you're saying, oh, no, these 1,100 over here are more important. I mean, that kind of seems supremacist. But at the same time, what Hamas did was very, very immoral. And it's not really the same as what the as what the Israeli government is doing. So, and she already admitted it's not the same.
Make a comment again, and I think you do want to discuss this as well, I'm going to guess, and I want to be conscious of your time because I think it's important. You said where you stand on October 7th. That's fine. You stand where you stand. You make a comment in your comments back to Shmuley Boteach about, and you make an equivalency where you talk about the Hollywood Jewish gangs, that Kanye West believes that, and that shouldn't we be able to talk about that? And you make the analogy with Crips and Bloods, and I make the comment how anti-Semitic this is because it's a trope that goes back almost 100 years. There was and how Jews control Hollywood. In the 20s, the Hollywood entertainment industry was started by the majority of the people who started the studios were Jews. They couldn't get jobs in any other business when they came to this country. Many of them were sons of rabbis. And there's a truth, and there's a great book called Empire of Their Own, how the entertainment industry was started by Jews. And how they did control Hollywood in the early days. They employed other...
Did this rabbi just say that Hollywood was started by Jews? And that Hollywood was controlled by Jews in the early days? Because I thought we're not allowed to say that. Jewish rabbi here just said that. I thought we're not allowed to say that. You're not. I thought you're not allowed to acknowledge historical fact.
Jews who were unemployable. That stops by the 60s and 70s and is totally gone by the 80s and 90s. Okay, and it is gone. It is a trope that people say. Understand that when we go back, remember we talked about the blood libel? Blood libel has become a term that's understood by academics, anthropologists, socialists, not political, but social anthropologists. The blood libel is when you're blaming Jews for the problems of other people, that you're radically blaming them for because of the anti-Semitism is a form of anti-Semitism. For many decades, you were told, oh, the Jews control Hollywood, this secret cabal, and they control Hollywood. You perpetuated that. Again, I understand you were defending against Shmuley Boteach. I understand that you've explained yourself about Rabbi Shmuley. But you made the specific comments about this Jewish group, I think you call them gangs or thugs, as opposed to saying that there are people who run Hollywood who are bad people, who do bad things. I'm not going to question whether there are or are not. But you identified the noun to their adjective that acting badly as a Jew. When the reality is that Jews don't control Hollywood. There may be many executives who are Jews, but that doesn't mean that they are anything other than Jew in name only. They go to temple twice a year. You and I both.
Now, see, what he's saying there is true, is that, even when you go back to a lot of the founders of Hollywood studios, like, for example, the founder of Universal Pictures was Jewish. His name was Carl Laemmle. He was a Jewish immigrant from Germany. Two of the three founders of Paramount were Jewish. All three founders of MGM were Jewish, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. The two founders of Columbia Pictures were Jewish, Harry and Jack Cohen. Not all of them were, though. Walt Disney and Roy Disney, his brother, they weren't Jewish. They were like German-Irish. So, D.W. Griffith was a big guy back in the Hollywood days. He wasn't Jewish. Not everybody who started Hollywood was Jewish. It's not true. But a lot of them were. And the thing is, though, is that they weren't acting as Jews. They were nominal. They were basically secular, completely secular. A lot of them they didn't go to synagogue except for maybe twice a year. Kind of like, how sometimes there's Christians who, there's like a nominal Christian. They go to church on Easter Sunday and they go to church on Christmas, and that's it. And so a lot of these Jewish people who are a part of early Hollywood, they were mostly just secular. They might go to the synagogue or temple, whatever they call it, twice a year. And They weren't really serious about their religion. And most of the Jewish people today in Hollywood are not really serious about their religion. I think maybe some of them are, like people like Steven Spielberg or Jeffrey Katzenberg. I think people like that probably take their religion seriously. You know, Jeffrey Katzenberg, he was the one who wanted to make the Prince of Egypt in the Joseph cartoon movies. I think there's a few Jews in Hollywood who really do take their religion seriously to a certain extent. Spielberg especially. But yeah, I think most of them are pretty much just secular. So it's kind of not fair to say Jews control Hollywood, since obviously not all Jews are even in Hollywood, especially the ones that are observant or have nothing to do with it. And the ones who do have something to do with it don't even take their religion seriously. So there's a separation there. I mean, it's kind of like I'm of German descent, and, you know, Adidas was founded by Germans. Does that mean I control Adidas? Volkswagen was started by Germans. If I'm of German descent, do I control Volkswagen? Obviously not. That's ridiculous.
Christians like that, right?
Yes. So I just, I
We both
first
know
want,
that like that, right?
I just
And
first
I
want
wouldn't
to,
judge
go
a
ahead.
Christian. I would not judge Christians based on the idea that some of those guys who don't really practice Christianity, as my friends who are pastors define it, so I'm not Christian, that people call themselves Christian but don't act in a Christian way. I would never use the noun of Christians. Whether these people, their mothers were...
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that too. I mean, obviously, if you look at, say, the Italian mafia, a lot of, watch the Godfather movies. A lot of the guys in the Italian mob were Catholic. And, even in, Godfather Part 3, they show the Godfather, he's going to the Catholic Mass and he wants to get his baby baptized as a baby the way that Catholics do. But you can't blame Catholics or you can't blame Christians for all of the evil that the Italian mafia commits, that gangsters commit. You know what I mean? So he's got a point there.
Jewish or not, you perpetuated an anti-Semitic trope that is almost a century old. And as opposed to saying there's some bad guys who are doing bad things, and when they're called out about it, they hide behind a call of anti-Semitism. That's a very different kind of statement that you could have said, as opposed to talking about the Hollywood Jews, the Jews controlling Hollywood, that whole thing.
Well, I never said the Jews control Hollywood, but Jewish people have said that. We can.
Yeah, and, well, she says that Jewish people have said that. Rabbi Barclay just said that. She's like, I've never said that the Jews control Hollywood, and that's absolutely right. Candace Owens has never said that. She's never said, the Jews control Hollywood. She's never said that. But there are Jewish people who say that. Rabbi Barclay himself just now said that. Now, he said they don't control Hollywood anymore. He said that stopped around the 1960s. But he said in the early days, he acknowledged that the Jews had controlled Hollywood back in the early days of Hollywood. Back in the days of Cecil B. DeMille and all that. So he's the one saying that, not her. And yet he's going to be the one to accuse her of being anti-Semitic when he's the one saying the anti-Semitic thing when she's not. She never said that Jews control Hollywood. She never said that. He said that. Oh, but she's the one who's anti-Semitic, when he's the one who's actually pushing this anti-Semitic idea, which is not really an anti-Semitic idea. I mean, it's just a historical fact. A lot of these Hollywood companies were founded by Jewish people. But a lot of people see that as being anti-Semitic. But that's the thing. He's the one saying it, not her.
Share an article up a link here, LA, that was published in the LA Times a couple of years ago, where a Jewish man wrote, "Let's face it, we do run Hollywood." That was totally fine a couple of years ago. Maybe he's anti-Semitic though.
It's
pardon?
never fun. It's not ever been fun.
Okay, well, I'm just saying like this was something, this has been said and it's actually fun.
Okay, so he's saying it's not fine for someone to say, hey, I'm Jewish, we're Jewish, we run Hollywood. He's saying that's not fine for anyone to ever say that, even though he himself literally just said that like 5 seconds ago. or not 5 seconds ago, but more like 30 seconds ago, whatever it was. He had just said earlier that in the early days of Hollywood, the Jewish Hollywood studios were founded by and ran by Jewish executives. He himself said that. And yet now he's saying it's not okay for you to say that. Even though he himself said it.
Funny because I was reading a very old article yesterday, forgetting the guy's name, I'm blanking on him, but he was the founder of Screw magazine. He's a Jewish guy, Al something. I'm blanking on his name. Anyways, he gave a very long interview about how, the Jews hire the Jews when they get into Hollywood. And like I said, this was said not 100 years ago. So this was something that many Jewish people have said, but sure, I guess you're saying that now it's a trope. But I just want to be clear that many Jewish people have said this in many interviews within the last 50 years, okay?
As I said, there's a whole book.
I do want to press pause on.
Now, and to be fair, the same thing is true of white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. When the Jews came to America and when Catholics came to America, it was hard to find jobs because a lot of the companies, a lot of the industries only wanted to hire white people who were Protestant. They didn't want to hire black people. They didn't want to hire Catholic people. They didn't want to hire Jewish people. They just wanted to hire white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of black people couldn't get jobs. A lot of Jewish people couldn't get jobs. A lot of Italian people couldn't get jobs, forcing them to create their own jobs. And so, does it make me anti-white or anti-Protestant to say that, hey, you know what? There was quite a number of companies that were owned by, controlled by white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, and they only wanted to hire other white Anglo-Saxon Protestants because that's what they wanted to do. That doesn't make me an anti-Protestant just because I'm acknowledging that fact that they wanted to hire their own. That's what they did. And that's a historical fact.
And ask you a question. Is it possible for Jewish people to form a gang, full stop?
Define gang.
To form a gang.
I mean, let me phrase that.
So now he doesn't even know what the definition of a gang is. It's like, obviously, it's possible for anyone to form a gang. It's possible for black people to form gangs. It's possible for Italians to form the mafia. It's possible for anyone to form a gang. Duh. And he knows that. But instead of acknowledging that fact, he just pretends like he doesn't understand English anymore. What's a gang? Define gang. Get a dictionary for me. Oh my goodness, I don't know what I forgot what the word gang means.
I don't even need to ask that question. The answer is, of course, there's, because there were Jewish gangs in New York.
Okay, yes, of course. Common sense that Jewish people...
So now he's acknowledging that, yeah, there were Jewish gangs in New York. And again, it's a historical fact. There were Italian gangs, there were black gangs, there were Jewish gangs, there were Russian gangs, the Russian mob. There was all kinds of... And there was Irish people who were involved in... watch the movie The Irishman. There were Irish people involved in the mafia. Anybody can be involved in a gang. Doesn't matter what your race is. Anybody can be involved in a gang.
Form a gang. Black people can form a gang. Gangs exist, will always exist. Jewish gangs have existed and will always exist. Worldwide, gangs happen. How absurd it is to say that if you think that there is a gang that is operating, to even suggest that there might be a person in the gang that is automatically a trope. That would mean it would be impossible for us to illustrate the gang existing. As soon as you say it's a trope and magically you can't talk about it.
If they're black, then it's a gang. If they're Italian, it's a mob. But if they're Jewish, it's a coincidence, and you should never speak about it.
I gave examples of multiple people in Hollywood, okay? We're talking about from Dave Chappelle to Kanye West to Cat Williams to other artists that are Christian that have said that there is some sort of a gang, full stop, that is operating in Hollywood. I then gave an example of a list of exact names that Michael Jackson said were operating as a gang. Rabbi Shmuley was among that list of people. So to say that we can't even explore that possibility, that Rabbi Shmuley, and that this list that somebody is giving, or something that artists are saying might be true is somehow anti-Semitic. I'm not saying all black people, all Jewish people are gang members. I am saying that it is, of course, possible that a gang is operating anywhere in the world. That should just be allowed.
Right. I mean, it's just like if you were to say there's a group of some black men and they formed a gang. That doesn't mean that you're racist against black people. Or if there's a group of some Irish or Italian people and they formed a gang, they formed a mob, they started bootlegging liquor during the Prohibition, and they formed a mob. You know, that's not anti-Catholic, that's not anti-Italian. You're just simply acknowledging that fact. This group of people formed a gang. And so what she's saying is perfectly reasonable. It makes perfect sense. Yeah, anybody can form a gang. And it's not anti-Semitic to simply acknowledge, hey, these guys formed a gang.
To be said without being accused of creating
I'm sorry,
a trope.
Candace, again, we're at the same place that we started at. Of when I said to you, I don't get to tell a black man if he's feeling racist. I don't get to tell a woman if you're experiencing misogyny. I keep telling you the things you
notice how he's not even acknowledging the point that she just made. He's just completely changing the topic.
Said repeatedly are hurtful to a huge number of Jews and are considered anti-Semitic. And instead of hearing any, wow, I didn't realize that. All I have heard for the lengthy time we've been on together, which I, again, think is very gracious and kind of you, but all I have heard from you, not one sense of responsibility, not one, I've said to you that if something is true or not true, I don't have issues saying I'm wrong, I don't have issues apologizing. But I haven't heard from you one sense of responsibility that you have, just use this as the example, you have tapped into a 1,000-year-old blood libel trope, a century-old trope specifically about Hollywood. And you
Okay, but did she mean to? Okay, is that really what she meant to do? Or is she just trying to inquire about what's actually happening in reality? Okay.
keep going off, well, can't this be intellectually right? Can't you do this? Can't you? You've hurt a bunch of Jews. Did you want to?
Absolutely
yes or no?
not. Absolutely not.
Okay, you did. You have. You continue to.
Yes, I understand. And what I will say to
you don't
any...
want to, then realize that what you're saying is it taps into centuries old hate. Realize
I'm just going to tell
what
you that when I am speaking, I get what you were saying.
hateful.
I get what you were saying, but I'm going to tell you what this is reminiscent to me of. This is reminiscent
So you can't
of when.
just say, I'm sorry.
Listen, please just let me finish my statement. This is reminiscent to me of when I got interested about BLM and I thought that there was corruption in BLM and black people all over America were crying, insisting on the BLM narrative, and I thought that there was corruption and that this was operating like a gang and they were taking money and there was money laundering. There were tons of people, Al Sharpton among them, and it sounds a little, you can't possibly say this, Candace. You can't, it leans into this, it leans into that. But my instincts are my instincts, and I have a right to pursue those instincts. And to the extent that any black person was harmed in the making of my documentary, and then I ended up being proven right that there was corruption that was happening, I'm very sorry that they felt that way. So I will say, to the extent that any person...
Yeah, and that's the thing, is if you watch her documentary called The Greatest Lies Ever Sold, it's about George Floyd, and it's about the Black Lives Matter group. Yeah, she really did uncover corruption. There were people in Black Lives Matter who were taking millions and millions of dollars that were donated to BLM, and they were using it to purchase these large mansions. They weren't using it to help black people. They were just using it to benefit themselves. And she uncovered that corruption. And what do people do? They slam her and say that she's racist against black people. Like, she's black herself. She's not racist against black people. That's ridiculous. And yet that's what people will do because she said there's corruption in BLM and she uncovered it and she proved it. Oh, you're racist against black people because you would dare uncover some corruption that was happening within Black Lives Matter. And she's saying that that's so similar to what he's doing. she suspects that there might be corruption in Hollywood. And, oh, you're anti-Semitic. How dare you suspect that there's corruption in Hollywood? It's like the same type of thing.
Who was harmed in the making of my documentary, and then I ended up being proven right that there was corruption that was happening. I'm very sorry that they felt that way. So I will say, to the extent that any person who is finding my interest in what is happening in Hollywood feels that is leaning into some trope and that I shouldn't, keep going, I am sorry that you feel that way. But I am also going to follow.
I'm sorry.
But I am
that is just disingenuous. That's not an apology.
But I'm telling you that I understand.
So, do you notice how she apologized? She said, I am sorry that you feel that way. And he says, that's not good enough. That's not an apology. That's disingenuous. But you just asked her to do that. Like, literally, like 15, 20 minutes prior in this exchange here, in this video, you literally said that that's what you want her to do. If she says something that she doesn't mean to be anti-Semitic, but other people interpret it to be anti-Semitic and their feelings got hurt, she has to apologize because of the way that other people feel. Other people misinterpreted what she says, so she has to apologize. So that's what she does. She said, okay, I am sorry if you feel that way. Oh, that's not good enough. That's not an apology. That's disingenuous. You literally just asked her to do that, like not even 20 minutes ago. You said that she needs to apologize for making other people feel that way, even though she didn't intend it that way. Other people mistakenly misunderstood her and became offended, and she has to apologize because she made other people feel that way unintentionally. So she has to apologize. So she apologizes. Okay, I'm sorry that you feel that way. And then he responds, no, that's not good enough. It's not good enough for you to say I'm sorry if it made you feel that way. You literally just told her to say that she's sorry for making other people feel that way. And now you're saying that that's not good enough.
I am sorry that you feel that way, but I am also going to follow.
I'm sorry.
See, she said, I am sorry that you feel that way. Literally, exactly what he was telling her to do. You need to apologize for making people feel that way.
But my interest in what is happening in Hollywood feels that is leaning into some trope and that I shouldn't, keep going. I am sorry that you feel that way, but I am also going.
She did what you wanted her to do. She said that she's sorry. She's sorry that she made you feel that way.
I'm sorry.
But I am
that is just disingenuous. That's not an apology.
I'm telling you that I understand that people have feelings, but I would like to follow and pursue the facts. And the facts are that many people in Hollywood are saying that there is some sort of a gang that is operating. I am not blaming Jewish people.
She's trying to follow the facts. And apparently it hurts other people's feelings that she's following the facts. So she says, okay, well, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I want to follow the facts. Oh, that's not good enough. You're supposed to not follow the facts.
Anti-Semitic trope.
Okay, well, I'm not blaming Jewish people for that at all. So I just want to be very clear.
But that is an anti-Semitic trope that has led to all sorts of horrible things.
So what did it lead to in Hollywood?
I'm telling you, as someone who knows this, and by the way, again, maybe you should read what I was writing about BLM, because you and I were on the same page.
Okay, and did you get called racist and people calling you all sorts of names that maybe weren't true because you thought BLM was just actually corrupt?
I actually took them on about the fact that all lives matter. My house was vandalized 4 times.
And that was considered racist at that time. So would you have been right to revoke that and apologize to black people because they said that was racist?
But here's the thing. No one sat there and said, you're a racist about it. They said
all lives matter was racist.
They said all sorts of things, and I got death threats. And as I say, my house was vandalized 4 times.
Mm-hmm. But you were right.
I called for a strike of MLB on PJ Media, of Major League Baseball, the day that they decided to put BLM.
Well, hey, I mean, good for him for, when he was calling out Black Lives Matter for their corruption. I mean, good for him for being on the same page as her. It's just crazy that, if she wants to investigate BLM and the corruption that happens there, buying large mansions, well, then that's perfectly fine. But if she wants to investigate corruption that takes place in Hollywood, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to investigate Hollywood. That's against the rules.
On Major League Baseball. And if someone said to me, you know what, you're playing into a stereotype that goes back centuries old of fill in the blank, I would have rewritten something. I would have said, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I am telling you with absolute authority that what you are saying about Hollywood is anti-Semitic. There's not this is what theologians, this is constant, and it is an expression of a blood libel going back to 1144. You're saying, well, I don't mean to hurt someone. Okay. If I apologize to you, my apology would be, gee, I apologize. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry. Not, I'm sorry for how you feel.
Well, no, I genuinely am sorry.
Well, the fact of the matter is earlier on, you literally told her to apologize for making other people feel bad. You're the one who told her to apologize for making people feel bad. Now you're going back on it, so make up your mind.
I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry. Not, I'm sorry for how you feel.
Well, no, I genuinely am sorry if you interpreted my suspicion. I genuinely am sorry if you interpreted that, like, my suspicion about a gang operating Hollywood to be some sort of a condemnation of all Jews. It's actually the exact opposite, which is why I specifically named.
I'm telling you that.
Are you going to let me speak? That is the reason why I specifically named Rabbi Shmuley, who was listed by Michael Jackson, who has been listed multiple times and who I believe operates like a gang member by his threats that he's been saying against me, that he's going to bankrupt me. I'm not going to pretend that I don't think that Rabbi Shmuley operates like a thug, and I'm going to withhold me stating that clearly because you're saying, well, that leans into an anti-Semitic trope. Him being Jewish doesn't mean anything to me. Him acting like a thug and making threats against my life and livelihood is something that... I did say Rabbi Shmuley. I did say Rabbi Shmuley.
Go ahead, time out. Because you just said something, okay, that is really beautiful if you walked that talk. You just said him being Jewish, him being a rabbi doesn't have anything to do with him being a thug.
I said that on my episode, too, about the bugs and the Crips.
Wait. I don't watch your episodes, Candace, forgive me.
Well, how can you write these articles and then say, I'm sorry, I didn't watch it? That is completely ridiculous. So you get to write articles and libel me, but then say I didn't watch the episode? You wrote a whole section on the episode.
I watched the clips that you do, but I don't know what episode.
That's ridiculous. You literally wrote an entire paragraph.
I saw some short clips of what you said, clips that were taken out of context, and I misinterpreted what you said as being anti-Semitic, therefore you must be, because I misunderstood those short clips out of context. But I don't watch your show. I haven't watched a full episode of your show. It's just ridiculous.
Saying that I attacked him as a thug, a monster, all of this stuff. Right. And you bring up the Bloods and the Crips, which is from that episode, but failed to mention that I said they're using...
I watched your Blood Crips... Wait, Candace. I watched your Blood Crips part, and I read your comments on Twitter about calling him a thug.
I specifically, in that episode of Bloods and Crips, said that being Jewish is being used as seals. Has nothing to do with the fact that they're Jewish whatsoever.
But you kept calling him a rabbi. And the simple reality is, if you really believe, okay, that Shmuley Boteach is doing something wrong,
he's operating like a thug,
which I hear you believe. If you believe that he is acting in whatever way, okay, calling him out on that, God bless you. But when you take it to the place of putting unholy rabbi, because that's your definition, when you take it to the place of him being if he's a jerk to you, he's a jerk to you. It doesn't matter if he's a rabbi, a priest, Jewish, or whatever, right?
No, that's not right. If there was a Christian pastor who was being a jerk to you, It's not just a guy being a jerk to you. It's a guy who claims to be a religious leader being a jerk to you. So yeah, the fact that he's a religious leader is of very great importance. And that's a big part of this, actually. So what are you talking about? Yes, it does matter. I'm going to back up a little bit.
Unholy rabbi, because that's your definition. When you take it to the place of him being if he's a jerk to you, he's a jerk to you. It doesn't matter if he's a rabbi, a priest, Jewish, or whatever.
Why wouldn't that matter? Well, if he's a jerk to you, it's a jerk to you. It doesn't matter if he's a religious leader. Why would that not matter if he's a religious leader? I thought religious leaders aren't supposed to do that. I think that part matters.
Right? So why bring up the rabbi and Jewish part?
Well, first off, he goes by Rabbi Shmuley, so that's just his.
Okay, wait. Okay. But wait, But why bring up if someone's being a jerk to you? It doesn't matter if they're white, black, purple, Jewish, Catholic, or anything else. They're being a jerk.
Okay.
So all we ever need to do is call them out for being.
If they're a religious leader, then it matters that they're being a jerk to you. Hello.
A jerk.
I didn't say Rabbi Shmuley is being a jerk to me because he's Jewish. I just called him Rabbi Shmuley because that's what he goes by.
No, but
we are running out of time, so I do want to give you just a full minute here to wrap up and to express to people how you feel about this issue, because I think that's really important.
Look, I first of all, I appreciate that you wanted to have a dialogue in any form. What I'm extremely sad, and I'm a little bit optimistic. I am optimistic that maybe you and I can have a dialogue after you watch October 7th, this film, if you actually do see it. I will arrange for it. Just have I can do with Skylar, your producer. And put him in the right contact to arrange it for. And if you really watch it, I'm very interested in your reaction. I'm a little bit optimistic about that. I am severely disappointed that we have spent however long, and I do appreciate the time, however long together, I think over an hour probably, right? And I do appreciate that. I am extremely disappointed that I did not once hear, I'd like to give a concept called tshuva in Judaism. Tshuva means that when you've done something wrong, you recognize you did it wrong, you apologize for trying to fix it,
Did what wrong? What did she do wrong? She has explained over and over and over again that you have taken her words out of context. If anyone's doing the wrong, you're the one doing the wrong, and you owe her an apology. Where's your apology? Who's being unrepentant here?
Looks for a healthy society. And I am extremely, extremely disappointed that not once in our conversation did I hear you take responsibility for what you said.
Hello, you're the one who's not taking responsibility for what you said. You said that she was saying that Hitler's okay, and she clearly portrayed to you in that video clip that she didn't say that, and yet you just doubled down and continued to stand by your words, your slander, your lies. You stand by it. You have not taken responsibility for your lies and your slander. And you're saying she's the one who's guilty of not taking responsibility for her wrongdoings? What did she do wrong? She spoke her mind and other people misinterpreted it. Sorry, man, but you're the one who's not taking responsibility for your wrongdoings.
Taking responsibility. I'm sorry if that made you feel that way. I'm extremely disappointed that you have decided you have taken responsibility. I'm sorry if that made you feel that way. I'm extremely disappointed that you have decided you have a clearer definition of anti-Semitism than Lord Sachs, myself, Ben Shapiro.
What do you mean she has a clearer definition of anti-Semitism? She asked you to give a concrete definition of anti-Semitism, and you wouldn't even provide it. You're just like, well, I mean, it's not really this, and it's not really that, and it's not really that. I mean, it's kind of like it morphs over time, like it changes over time. Just give a concrete definition. Yeah, the hate can morph over time. The hate can change over time, but give a concrete definition of what the word means, at least what it means right now. And you didn't even do that. She's not claiming to have the definition. You're the one who she asked you to give a definition. You wouldn't even give a concrete definition. She's not saying she's smarter than you. She's asking you to give the definition. You wouldn't even give it. You just gave this weird thing that it morphs over time instead of just saying this is the definition.
Etc. Going back, scholars, academics, whomever. I'm extremely disappointed that not once have I heard you say, wow, I messed up, Rabbi. I realize what you're saying. I understand.
When did you ever admit that you messed up? Because you slandered her, you lied about her. When did you ever admit your wrongdoings? When did you ever take responsibility for your lies?
But I did wrong. You know what? I'm not going to phrase it that way again. Using Shmuley as the example, you could just say, you know what? You're right. I don't need to attack him and his daughter being rabbis. They're just bad people to me. I don't need to make a comment about a Hollywood gang of Jews. They're just bad guys who are running Hollywood that may have whatever relationships. You've tapped into ancient tropes that are anti-Semitic tropes. You have repeatedly demonstrated a hate for Judaism and Jews. Now, I'm hoping that will change, but it takes a certain level.
Okay, she doesn't have a hatred for Judaism, okay? Because the fact of the matter is she's following the king of the Jews. I don't think she has a hatred for Judaism. I think the one who has the hatred for Judaism is the one who's rejected the king of the Jews.
Self-awareness, to be willing to say, I did wrong, I'm sorry, I'm going to do it differently. I pray and hope that you will. I believe, I do trust when people say you have a nice heart, niceness, and I really would hope that ultimately we're both conservatives. There are a lot of Jewish conservatives, and a lot of black conservatives, and we can all be on the same side, pointing in the same direction, as opposed to being split because of these kind of repeated comments. It wasn't just one repeated that you made. And again, I hope that will change after you watch the documentary, which you've committed to me you will do. So thank you for allowing me to be. It's your show.
And I don't know what that documentary is, but I want to watch it too. I'd like to see what the documentary shows. I'll try to find some way of finding out where it is.
Thank you very much for being here. And like I said, we are not going to edit you in any way. We will definitely give you the ability to send that video that you said of me attacking Ben, which I am very sure doesn't exist.
Thank you for reminding me of that, so I can know.
And then last thing I want to say is I have faith in my father.
Just one question, Candace. Mm-hmm. I actually, this went very long, and I have to get to a temple meeting, and then I have lunch with a mutual friend of ours, actually. So I don't know.
He has a meeting with a mutual friend of theirs. I'm guessing that's Ben Shapiro. I don't know.
When I can get that to, does it matter if I don't get it to till late this afternoon?
That should be okay.
Okay. I just wanted to be, I want to be respectful, and I also I wanted to. This has gone for both of us. This has gone on much longer, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. And I would have you back. We should always want more speech, not less of it. Nobody should ever be calling for the censorship of any person. I believe in free speech, even the speech that I disagree with. And what I'll say is what I always say. I have faith in my audience. They know who I am. They know what I have said and in what context I have said it. I have a huge Jewish following, and I am confident.
Now, that's true. I haven't listened to every episode that she's made, but I've listened to quite a bit. And yeah, I think that I can see directly through all of this nonsense that he's talking about. And I've seen so many comments from so many other people saying this guy is being absolutely ridiculous. And there's even a lot of Jewish people who follow Candace, and they're just like, oh my goodness, she is not anti-Semitic. These are absolute lies and slander against her. And so, yeah, her audience knows that this is nonsense.
In their belief in me stems from the fact that they've been listening to the show, and they know that I hold no hatred in my heart against Jews. I just don't believe any group is exceptional. I don't believe any group, black, white, Spanish. You watch my show, you're going to get offended. And I am always going to call out wrongness when I see it. And to the extent that we are using anti-Semitism as a tool to bar people from critiquing certain individuals, a la Rabbi Shmuley, it is going to make an enemy of me, but I will never be an enemy to the Jewish people. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the show today. I cannot wait to see your comments. Stick around because, as usual, tomorrow we'll be back with a brand new episode. All right, guys, I'm just picking this up really quickly because, as you heard throughout that discussion, the rabbi said that after the conversation, he would send to us evidence within the Tucker Carlson interview of my having attacked Ben Shapiro for being pro-Israel. He was unable to produce a part of that discussion with Tucker as evidence.
Yeah, and there's another one of the rabbi's lies. He said there was a video clip of her attacking Ben Shapiro, and that's not true. He couldn't produce the video clip because it doesn't exist, because he made it up, because he lied and slandered her again.
What he sent us instead was a tweet that I wrote, and just to contextualize this, in response to a tweet that Ben had written. Obviously, everyone's aware of this public feud. Ben told me to quit, and I responded with this. I wrote in response, "You have been acting unprofessional and emotionally unhinged for weeks now, and we have all had to sit back and allow it and have all tried to exercise exceeding understanding for your raw emotion, but you cross a certain line when you come for scripture and read yourself into it. I will not tolerate it." I wrote that in response to Ben writing, "Candace, if you feel that taking money from the Daily Wire somehow comes between you and God, by all means quit." He was writing that in response to biblical scripture. I had tweeted, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." Scripture from Matthews. So again, this is just in the interest of being an honest person and giving him an opportunity to produce his evidence. That is what the rabbi sent us over, was my tweet in response to Ben. I would not interpret that as me being on the attack, but that is how the...
Yeah, that was an attack. That was not an attack on Candace's part. That was an attack on Ben's part. Ben is the one who attacked her. Ben is the one who was completely misinterpreting what she said, saying that, hey, if you want to take money from the Daily Wire, then quit. You know, it's like, I mean, it sounds to me like he's encouraging her to quit. Like, hey, we don't want you here. I mean, that sounds like Ben attacking her, not her attacking him.
Rabbi read it, so there you have it.
Okay, well, that's the end of it. So that's my commentary on the whole thing. Of course, she was fired from the Daily Wire a couple of days after making this. And I still don't really know the full reason why. But yeah, I think that was probably the reason why they fired her, because of that video. And actually, it might not have been because of that video. It might have been because of other reasons. I really don't know. Anyway, that's my commentary on the thing. Thanks for watching.